What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. This is a topic that I'm sure is popular, but surprisingly I've never done before. I've done similar things before, but not exactly this one. And because of the fact that this is such a popular idea, I'm going to make this my own unique thing and try and see how it affects the story long term, while keeping it realistic and unique. In case you couldn't tell by the title, we'll be covering what if Goku went Super Saiyan early. Anyways, let's begin covering this scenario. So if we're going to have Goku go Super Saiyan early on, how early can we go with it? The Saiyan saga might be realistic, but if it's when Raditz arrives, that's only about a year earlier than normal, and if it's when Vegeta and Nappa arrive, that's basically a few weeks earlier than normal. So not too worthwhile of a change in my opinion. We could go really far back. I was actually thinking of having it happen when Bora died. Although it feels a little outlandish to me, and I know that once he gets Super Saiyan at that point, basically the rest of early Dragon Ball is nothing. But he's going to be overpowered regardless of when it happens. The easiest point is to do it when Krillin died, because that's how he went Super Saiyan in the first place, on Namek when Krillin died. Thankfully for us, but not thankfully for Krillin and Goku, Krillin died before that too. So that's where our story is going to begin. Following the 22nd World Tournament, Goku finds Krillin dead. After the brief shock of it, he feels a weird anger that he's never felt before. It's only natural given that his best friend died, but this is different. This is some sort of primal rage that was buried deep within him. He can't tell what's going on. This anger acts as a catalyst, causing him to transform. Once the rest of the group catches up to Goku, they see him standing over Krillin's body. But there's an intense pressure in the room, generated by what seems to be a golden aura around Goku. But more noticeably, his hair is spiked up, and it's golden now. His eyes have changed color too. Unknowingly, he's transformed into a Super Saiyan. He actually doesn't even realize it, he just feels a lot stronger, and a lot angrier too. And he asks Bulma for the Dragon Ball radar. Everyone's left kinda speechless, and she says that she does have it, so he takes it from her, and immediately goes off on his own. He calls for Nimbus, and when he tries to fly on Nimbus, he can't. He keeps falling through it for some reason and doesn't know why. The others try to stop him, especially Roshi, who's worried about his student. But it's already too late. By the time they get outside, Goku just simply jumps up into the air. At first, he's going to use the strength of this jump and a ki blast to propel him. But instinctively, he tries to make flight work and actually kind of pulls it off at first. It's really tricky. And this actually isn't too outlandish for Goku, who's known for copying techniques after seeing them. And he did just see it in the 22nd World Tournament. He doesn't know why, but he has a huge surge of power within him too, and he thinks this is kind of driving it as well. No time to think about that now though. He flies off following wherever the Dragon Ball went. But from the ground below, his friends watch on worry. Of course, worried at the fact that Krillin's dead and now Goku's going into a fight. But Roshi's even more worried because he could see that some sort of anger is overtaking Goku. He knows why Goku's angry, but he's never seen him like that, especially transformed somehow. It's terrifying almost, especially with the type of power that he was showcasing. Roshi thinks they need to stop him immediately. Of course, there is a threat out there too, but he's less concerned about that and more concerned about Goku. Whatever power Goku has right now, it actually might be enough to take out whatever threat they're supposed to be fighting. The increase in power is that substantial. But Roshi's worried about that rage that Goku's feeling. It's going to overtake him, and he needs to help his student. Goku eventually catches up to Tambourine, who doesn't even realize who this guy is because he looks so different. Tambourine's not even too concerned at first, but he confirms that he is the one who killed Krillin, and he says that they have a list of fighters that they're going after. Plus, he does have the Dragon Ball. Thankfully, Goku's cool-headed enough in this moment to actually not kill him right away, because enough time did pass for him to regain some sort of control. If not, he wouldn't have gotten this info that they're going after other fighters as well. But of course, immediately after hearing all this, he instantly goes into fight, moving so quickly that Tambourine can't even react, swiping the Dragon Ball from him, and then one-shotting Tambourine as well, with no hesitation and no second thoughts. But strangely enough, right after this fight, Goku then powers back down to base, feeling very worn out too, and also unable to fly anymore. He plummets to the ground below, holding onto the Dragon Ball as tight as he can, and he hits the ground unconscious. Not too long later, Roshi and the rest of the group stumble upon Goku, glad to find that he's relatively okay, and he actually has the Dragon Ball in hand. Plus, he's not in that golden haired form anymore, which probably is a good sign. Roshi asks Goku if he remembers anything, and yeah, he does. He remembers pretty much everything. He just didn't even realize that in the moment, he transformed. But he tells Roshi what happened. He caught up to Tambourine, got the Dragon Ball, killed him, and also during the fight, he found out that Tambourine was actually going after some of the other World Tournament fighters. And Roshi seems to have an idea of who they're up against too. It's King Piccolo. He's not sure who freed King Piccolo and why he's back in the first place, but none of that matters. The point is, King Piccolo's a big threat and they have to stop him. And also, he wants to figure out what that power Goku had was. Not only because it's concerning, but it might be useful here in this fight, especially against someone like King Piccolo. That opponent Goku was up against, there's no way he would have defeated him without that form. And the rest of the group, at least those who have known Goku for a while, they're wondering if this is related to that giant monkey transformation Goku has. At least in whatever this form is, Goku kept his humanoid shape, and he actually was somewhat conscious during it, The anger did briefly take control of him, but soon enough he was able to regain his senses somewhat. But that was close to when he lost consciousness from losing so much power, because there was a lot of stamina drain from this too. No one has any clue of what happened, nor does Goku, but unlike the Grade 8 form at least, Goku does remember what happened. Plus, this form seems way stronger than when Goku turns into a giant monkey. And on top of that, it seems anger is what made him transform rather than something like a full moon. At least now they have time to prepare. Roshi tells Goku to come with him. They're gonna have to plan something. Roshi does know one way they could probably contain King Piccolo, but they do need a backup plan, and Goku could be the perfect one. At least if they could somehow unlock that power again. But Goku does need to recover a bit first too. King Piccolo waits for Tambourine to come back, but he never does. And of course this means he never gets his hand on a Dragon Ball. He wonders what's taking him so long. Did he actually fall in battle or something? No, there's no way. His son is stronger than that. But just as important for him, he wanted a list of all the tournament contestants. And he still doesn't have that because Goku was able to get that from Tambourine as well. So he decides he's going to make a few more sons here. First of all, he needs to figure out what happened with Tambourine, and he needs to send someone out to collect the Dragon Balls. After hearing about them from the Pilaf gang, he really wants them. If he regains his youth, he'll be unstoppable. But he does need 7 Dragon Balls first. The big issue for him here is that he knows Tambourine's dead. He actually is able to sense this type of stuff. And this puts him on high alert immediately because that's another goal of his. They need to find out who exactly killed Tambourine. He had the list of tournament contestants, he had a Dragon Ball, and most importantly, one of his sons was defeated, which kinda concerns King Piccolo. The group tries to uncover the mystery of what that form is. One interesting thing they noted is that Goku wasn't able to fly on Nimbus, which must mean some sort of maliciousness was in his heart, because before, Goku flew in it with no issues at all. And just to test it again, he calls for Nimbus. Now that he's in his base, it works just like before. So it did have to do with that power after all. But there's a lot of mystery surrounding what it is and what its true power is. For now, Goku just refers to it as Super Goku. He guesses that he got so mad that he decided to summon more power that he didn't even know he had within him. And if that really is the case, that's truly terrifying. But he's determined now. Whatever that power is, he'll figure out how to use it to protect his friends. Plus, they need to get all the Dragon Balls to bring Krillin back too. Thankfully they do have the radar as well, but it seems like these people are a bigger problem first. They'll have to defeat the enemy, and then go after the Dragon Balls. Ten and Chaozu are with them too because Ten wants to learn how to do the Mafuba. This is their main course of action too, because they think that the Mafuba will be a sure way to defeat King Piccolo. It did work before after all. And in case they can't unlock whatever power Goku had, they're probably going to have to rely on this. A bit of time passes and they wait at Kame House. Goku tries his best to get the form again, but he can't really control it. On Namek, when Goku unlocked it, he actually was able to just willingly transform into it once again. But here it seems a little bit tougher for him. First of all, he's way less experienced than he was on Namek. And here the circumstances aren't necessarily as dire as Namek was, so the combination of those two things makes it a little bit tough for him to get into it. But eventually he does tap into it briefly. There is another issue with it too. It feels a lot more taxing on him. He's not used to this kind of power and he has no clue of what it is. And combine that with the last two things that I mentioned, it just makes it a little bit harder for him to maintain. And the second he does turn Super Saiyan, he basically taps right out afterwards. But amidst these preparations, someone else arrives on the island. They didn't really know where to go next because they don't have a list of tournament contestants. But the Pilaf gang was actually able to track Dragon Balls here, and they do notice that one of them is nearby. They realize now that Tambourine probably was actually able to get one of them, and it got taken from him somehow because it moved positions. It was coming towards them and then it went the opposite direction. So they sent out another one of King Piccolo's sons there. Symbol arrives on the island, and essentially right what he does, he gets jumped by everyone. He's actually not too tough of an opponent here, thankfully. But that's not the issue. The issue is that this sends King Piccolo right after them now, because first of all, they can't get the Dragon Balls, and it seems like they have some sort of strong opponent they're working against. That's 2 of his sons defeated by seemingly the same person, so they make this guy a priority. And the Pilaf gang pretty much immediately recognizes who it might be. It's probably that kid Goku. It seems he has no choice now. King Piccolo himself goes to Kame House. Descending upon it not too long after, looking to kill them. Goku tries to fight him and is actually defeated pretty quickly. Of course, the others try to fight right away, but they're not going to be able to do much either. He's more so focused on Goku because he was the one to kill his 2 sons. He'll kill this brat first and then make sure to wipe out all of his friends. But then he notices something weird, something that actually kind of terrifies him. Roshi actually hasn't had time to teach this to Ten yet, but he starts to prepare the Mafuba for himself, and King Piccolo can recognize it right away. This distracts him from Goku for a brief moment, and he tries to fight back by launching an attack at them. But this is a wrong move on King Piccolo's part, because this sets Goku off. Not only is he on the brink of death again, but now all of his friends are in direct danger. This is the guy that's responsible for all of it. He's responsible for Krillin's death. And if he doesn't do something now, his other friends will die too. Despite the damage he's taken, Goku gets back up. That same golden aura surrounds him again, and he's able to tap into Super Saiyan once more. Or rather, Super Goku as he calls it. He tells King Piccolo that it ends here, leave all of his friends alone. Now, Piccolo is taken aback by this, and Roshi actually stops preparing the Mafuba too. They might have actually won here. Goku tapped into it against him. Piccolo does try and fight him, but Goku's far too fast for him now, And even when he does rarely land an attack, it doesn't do anything to Goku. He's completely unfazed by it. And Goku knows this power is fleeting, so he's going to finish this as quick as possible. He hits King Piccolo with a single kick. He rockets up into the air, right through his ship, making it crash into the sea with the Pilaf gang aboard. The group doesn't even realize that they're there. An injured Piccolo hovers midair, and then he looks down below, seeing a blue light getting closer and closer to him. A Kamehameha is launched upwards, and King Piccolo sees his certain death here. With no other options, he spits out one last egg, launching it far off into the distance. No one else even sees it because it's obscured by the Kamehameha. It's so powerful that it looks like it just swallows everything in the sky, completely obscuring the view of Piccolo too. This attack completely disintegrates the Demon King, and Goku stands there on the island below, victorious. They're amazed at his power and amazed that it actually worked. He did it. He saved them against Piccolo. They don't even realize how much destruction was just avoided thanks to Goku. Goku then powers down, thinking that he now might actually have a hang of this form. Well, not perfect control over it, but at least willingly being able to transform into it. What they need to do next is to get the Dragon Balls to revive Krillin, and they immediately do that right after the fact, with everyone still completely unsure as to what power Goku just used. Thankfully, Piccolo didn't really get to do much, so Krillin's brought back, and that's basically it. Thanks to Goku killing Tambourine right away, all of his focus went directly to Goku, because he wasn't sure of how his son died and wanted to figure out how. All he knew is that Goku defeated him and stole what he wanted. So he didn't go after any of the other tournament contestants because he didn't even know where to find them, and they just went after that one Dragon Ball that Tambourine had. Krillin's told about everything after too, and Goku even shows him the power that he got. He got that form because of him? That's kind of insane. He knew Goku's power was scary, but not like this. Like that giant monkey thing that he transforms into, that's terrifying enough. This seems way more powerful. But at least it seems like Goku actually has some sort of control in this, and he actually remembers what's going on. But back at Kame House, someone descends on the island, and it looks like another one of King Piccolo's cohorts. At first they're worried and ready to fight, but the man says he's not working for King Piccolo. He knows his appearance might give off that impression, but that's not who he is. He's the creator of the Dragon Balls. He's the guardian of Earth, Kami. From his lookout, he witnessed King Piccolo's defeat, and seeing someone that strong, especially with a power that they can't control, it made Kami curious about Goku. He has to be the strongest person on Earth now, and especially with the fact that King Piccolo's going to come back soon enough, he wants to make sure Goku's the one able to defeat him. And he tells him about the egg. They didn't even see King Piccolo spit up another egg, and now they know he's going to be reincarnated, and he's going to come to fight again. That's exactly why Kami's here. First, he wanted to meet Goku, and offer him a spot to train on the lookout with him. Obviously, Goku's going to accept this, not only because it's going to help him grow a lot stronger, but it'll allow him to get control on whatever this form is. And he's ready for whatever lies ahead. Goku's training with Kami begins. Of course, Kami has a lot to teach him, but one of the main things they want to work on is that form that he has, Super Goku, whatever it is. Still, nobody knows what it is, so they don't even know how to control it or how to work it, or why Goku even transformed in the first place. Is it something other humans can get too, or is it something exclusive to Goku? He is kind of a unique case. I mean, he can transform into a great ape when he has his tail, so maybe it's because of that, his weird genetic makeup, and the fact that he's so unique from other humans. No one knows he's a Saiyan yet. So Kami wants to try and tap into that form and figure out what makes it work. Mainly for Goku's sake, because not only will this make him a stronger warrior, but it will give him better control. But besides that, he also learns a lot from Kami because he's a great teacher to begin with. It's not just raw power that Goku's getting from this. He's refining himself even further as a martial artist. Plus, with Goku being a lot stronger here and having Super Saiyan, when he goes into the Room of Spirit and Time, he's actually able to last in there a little bit longer, but eventually taps out. He lasts a few months though, which is longer than before. In case you don't remember, he actually did go into the Room of Spirit and Time as a kid. It's just that he couldn't be in there too long. But amidst his training here, he actually does that. Soon enough, we get to the 23rd World Tournament. And up until the final match with Goku and Piccolo, nothing really changes because this doesn't affect anyone else's streak. Well, I guess one thing that would change is that Goku's matches would go way easier. Although he does hold himself back to try and have a fun fight, but still. It's not like he was necessarily struggling in the first place. And against Piccolo, he hopes for a good challenge, but he is confident that he'll win. He holds back Super Saiyan, of course, because he wants to test Piccolo's power. If he just goes in with Super Saiyan, he'll win way too easily. He's been waiting for this fight with Piccolo, and he thinks Piccolo will be able to impress him. But even when holding back Super Saiyan, he's way too strong for Piccolo. And Piccolo's not satisfied, not only because he's losing here, but the fact that Goku's not using his full power. He tells Goku to use the same power that he used to defeat King Piccolo. Of course he remembers it and knows it. He's not going to be embarrassed like this. He wants Goku to defeat him at his full strength. In a brilliant display, much to everyone's shock, he goes Super Saiyan. For all his friends looking on, they're a bit concerned seeing this again, but Goku seems way more tame in this form. And not just that, he seems to have some sort of control over it. Now, it's not 100% efficient still, but he could use it willingly whenever he wants. The reason he was acting so differently before was because of all the intense emotions he was feeling when Krillin died. Here, he's still Goku. Sure, there's a bit of maliciousness within him when he's using Super Saiyan, which is why he couldn't ride on Nimbus. But it doesn't affect him at all. He's just using it like it's any other thing. This is also a big shock to Chi-Chi, who still did propose to Goku here, but is confused on why Goku suddenly turned blonde and looks like a delinquent. Is she marrying a delinquent and she didn't know it? Naturally, the fight doesn't last much longer. Goku basically one-shots Piccolo, but still acknowledges Piccolo's strength. Even though he had to hold back, that still was a really fun battle. Goku wins the 23rd World Tournament, and Piccolo ends up leaving, promising Goku that he'll come back one day and defeat him. He knows that power now, and he's going to be able to get strong enough to defeat Goku while using that form. He'll make it his life's mission. Whatever power that is, he'll overcome it. So, pretty uneventful World Tournament. But Piccolo ends up surviving like normal, knowing that he's not going to be able to win here. So, while he's tempted to try and fight back after he loses, he knows that's not a good idea. He needs to get a lot stronger. And with Goku still engaged to Chi-Chi, that leads us to the few years time skip that happens after the fact. This is where we'll start to have some pretty major changes. Well, not right off the bat, because nothing really happens over this time skip besides the fact that Gohan's born, which doesn't change at all. Now the question is if Goku going Super Saiyan so early on would affect Gohan at all, and it actually might not change too much, at least not right off the bat. So for one, I debated whether or not Gohan would even be born with the tail because that's supposedly a recessive trait, and that didn't apply to Goten and Trunks. But Goku going Super Saiyan here probably wouldn't affect that at all. Weirdly enough, with Gohan's tail being a recessive trait, it just seems so unlikely that he was born with it in the first place that I guess for this scenario we could still keep it here. Because he's seemingly a rare case where a hybrid Saiyan was born with a tail. Actually, the only case of that. Now, another thing is, would this affect Gohan's power at all? The reason I mention this is because a lot of people theorize this is why Goten and Trunks were so strong and able to go Super Saiyan so easily, but that's probably not the case. This was explained way later on in Super, but the existence of S cells is what makes someone transform into Super Saiyan much easier. I know, not the most universally loved explanation, but it's an explanation in the series, so I'm going to stick with it too. Because people used to theorize that maybe one of the reasons Goten and Trunks went Super Saiyan so easily is because Goku and Vegeta had that same ability too. But that's kind of tough to say, especially because we're not even really sure if this applies to Trunks because it depends on when Vegeta actually unlocks Super Saiyan, because Trunks could have probably been conceived before Vegeta actually went Super Saiyan. And if that's the case and Vegeta actually unlocked Super Saiyan after Trunks was conceived, that means the theory doesn't even apply to him. The whole reason I'm mentioning this is that people might think that Gohan would just be born as a Super Saiyan to begin with, and that's not the case here. Even with Goten and Trunks, they weren't born as Super Saiyans. They still did have to work for it, and even though they got it really easily, it still didn't mean that they were just instantly born with it. I feel like this is a fairly grounded and realistic approach to it too, because I know some people are probably going to ask why doesn't Gohan go Super Saiyan instantly, but this explanation is why that probably wouldn't be the case at all here. Although, at least on the bright side, this means he's still born with his tail, because that seemingly wasn't affected by the power of Goku or Vegeta. Tails being a recessive trait doesn't mean that it's going to be affected by Goku's power at all, that's just genetics. Tangent aside, that explains why Gohan's going to be largely the same here. I still think it was necessary because I don't want a bunch of people asking why isn't Gohan a Super Saiyan at birth? No, that's not happening. Following the time skip, there is still a reunion plan at Kame House, and Goku ends up going with Gohan. All seems well and good here until Raditz eventually shows up. His interaction with Piccolo goes pretty much like normal. Now, there's a chance that he could go to Goku instantly, but Goku's power is going to be so suppressed that he won't even notice it. At least not at first. So he still encounters Piccolo and then goes to find Goku right after. And when he arrives at Kame House, of course, he tries to act intimidating, and he thinks he overpowers Goku too. Especially because, judging by his scouter, Kakarot's pretty weak, which is very disappointing, especially with the fact that he doesn't even have a tail anymore, although it seems like his son does, which is how he instantly recognizes that Gohan is actually Goku's son. The fact that he has a tail, he's a hybrid Saiyan. That's an interesting thing to note, and he'll definitely have to tell Vegeta and Nappa about it. Goku learns a little bit more about his origin, and Raditz tells him to join them. Obviously Goku declines it, but then Raditz gets aggressive. He tries to attack Krillin, but Goku blocks it easily. And Raditz notices something strange when he does this. In that brief moment where he jumped to defend Krillin, first of all, Kakarot moved really quickly, but on top of that, his power jumped a lot. He thinks his scouter's acting up because it said Kakarot's power went up to 3k. That doesn't seem right. And no, it's actually not right. That's not Goku's base strength. Right now he's really heavily suppressed because he has no reason to fight. Well, at least not until Raditz showed up. His true base strength is actually more like 10,000. I feel like this is pretty reasonable because not only did he get better training while in Super Saiyan, but the fact that he used the Room of Spirit and Time for a little bit longer than normal even if the training wasn't really too crazy in there. And keep in mind, this is his base strength too. And I don't need to tell you that for the saga that's pretty insane. He'll fight him, but not here. So they go off to fight, and Raditz actually isn't able to take Gohan with him, which will actually work in his favor later on. Goku and Raditz start fighting in base, and Goku easily overpowers him. Raditz realizes he might be outmatched here, so he might try and pull some tricks, but at first he can't really do anything against Goku. But he does buy some time to think by telling Goku more about his origin, more about the Saiyans and more of who he is. That explains a lot, the fact that he was born with a tail, and the fact that he was able to transform into a great ape, which also makes him realize that he was the one to kill Grandpa Gohan. He learns the fact that there's 3 of them alive right now, Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa, and 4 if you include Goku. And yeah, I know, Tarble, Paragus, and Broly too, but no one knows about that. The main reason he's trying to get some time here is because he has his hand behind his back, charging an artificial moon. This is going to be an easy way to win. Gohan might have a tail, but he's not here at the moment, and Goku doesn't have a tail, which means that Raditz can transform and he won't have to worry about anyone else fighting him. No matter how strong Kakarot is, he won't be able to defeat a Great Ape when he can't transform into one himself. It seems like Raditz is about to back down, but before he concedes defeat, he then shows his hand, literally and figuratively. He has an artificial moon charged in it, and he flings it up into the sky. He tells Kakarot he'd give him one more chance before he tries to kill him. Join the Saiyans now or die. Goku watches as Raditz transforms. He didn't know they could just do that on a whim. It must be that weird glowing orb he made. But Goku doesn't feel scared or anything. He feels excited. He finally has an opponent that actually might be able to challenge him a bit. He'll have to gauge Raditz's power first, but he might actually have a reason to use Super Goku in a fight. With Raditz as a Great Ape, he's a giant target, and he is noticeably stronger. Goku does try and fight in base for a bit, but it doesn't end up working. So, he has no choice but to use his true power. He thanks Raditz for the fight, but knowing that Raditz is an actual threat here, he unfortunately can't hold back any longer and enjoy this battle. He would love to fight Raditz again though. Quickly he transforms into his Super Saiyan, stunning Raditz. His hair's golden. Like Raditz is actually frozen in place. Is this a Super Saiyan? No, there's no way. That's not what this is. But he doesn't know how else to explain it. And Goku could tell that judging by his reaction, he's never seen this form before. He says that's kind of a bummer because he was hoping to learn more about this. Once Raditz explained that he's actually an alien, Goku thought that maybe this means that this form is because of that. And maybe it's something that Saiyans can use. He was honestly kind of worried that Raditz had it himself, but clearly he doesn't. Raditz still doesn't know what to say. And he doesn't say anything, but deep down he knows that's what it is. It's the Super Saiyan form. It's not some sort of legend, it's a transformation, and of all people, Kakarot's the one to have it. And Raditz actually is unlucky enough to face off against it. Goku quickly is able to defeat Raditz. And Raditz doesn't try to fight back here. He simply just tries to retreat. And that's for a few reasons. For one, he knows he obviously can't win here. 2, Kakarot's power could help him in the future, not only because he might be a Super Saiyan, but the fact that he's so strong as is. So even if that's not what the power is, the fact that Kakarot's that strong could really help him out against Frieza, so the best option now is to not antagonize him anymore. And on top of that, he's actually able to escape here because Goku sees that he's not as big of a threat as he thought. Sure, Raditz is powerful, but he was able to defeat Great Ape Raditz pretty easily, and in the process he actually did cut off Raditz's tail to ensure he won't transform again. Also, to make sure he de-transforms in the first place, because apparently according to Raditz, that's what helps him transform. He thanks Raditz for giving him more info on that. He probably would have figured that out anyways because he got his tail removed and wasn't able to transform anymore. But with Raditz explaining so much about the Saiyans and why Goku can't transform, as well as the importance of the tail, that helped Goku later on in the fight. And you might be wondering, why doesn't Goku kill Raditz here like he did before? Well, this is another thing that works in Raditz's favor. For one, since the fight went so differently, first of all, he's way weaker than Goku, so Goku's not concerned about him fighting back. 2, Raditz never actually tried to trick Goku. He was losing against Goku and then just transformed after the fact. It's not like in the main story where Goku went after his tail and then Raditz lied to him to escape, and immediately tried to kill him after the fact. But another thing that works in his favor is that he never was able to kidnap Gohan. The only person in any danger at the moment was Goku, and he wasn't even really in any danger. He was able to handle this on his own pretty easily. Raditz tells his younger brother that he's just going to leave the planet, and Goku lets him go. He knows that those other Saiyans probably will show up eventually too, but he's not too concerned. Judging by Raditz's reaction to Super Goku, he's never seen that type of power before, so that means Goku's probably way stronger than his friends as well. Even if Raditz shows up with his friends, that's not going to be a problem. And that's if he even comes back. Raditz knows that this is a losing battle, even if he brings Vegeta and Nappa back here too. Of course, they saw all of this over the Scouter too, and they realize it's probably not the best idea to go to Earth right now. They're going to regroup with Raditz immediately and plan something else. Goku watches as Raditz departs, and someone else then shows up, about to shoot down the ship, but Goku stops him. It's Piccolo. He was actually watching the whole time, all the way back at Kame House too, and he heard everything. But why would he let Raditz go? Is it because that guy's his brother? And Goku says no, that didn't even cross his mind. Judging by how that guy acted, that's no brother of his. But even so, that's not the reason Goku let him go. And Piccolo tells him that he does realize the other Saiyans might show up again. It might not just be Raditz next time. He doesn't know if or when they'll show up, but there's no way Raditz is just going to let that go. They definitely came here for a reason. They wanted Goku to join them for a reason, so they probably will be back. And Goku's not too concerned. And if the other Saiyans do show up, he'll defeat them as well. Plus, he has a ton of good friends to help him. Piccolo thinks it's best they prepare, and Goku thinks that might be a good idea. Even though he can handle himself, he needs to make sure his friends can too. Still, he's not entirely concerned about the Saiyans, but now that Piccolo mentions it, it might be worth preparing. They don't know if and when the Saiyans will come back, and for all they know, they might be stronger. Goku needs to be prepared as well, despite him defeating Raditz so easily here. Weeks pass, and Raditz arrives back to one of the Frieza Force bases. He's still pretty badly injured, and the others take notice of this. Normally this isn't too big of a concern, but they don't actually know where Raditz went, and thankfully Frieza doesn't know about it yet. especially with Raditz being such a low-level soldier. Him leaving his post for a bit wasn't really noticed right away. But that's the issue. Soon enough, people are going to get suspicious, and he's going to have to explain what he was up to. Back at the base, he contacts Vegeta and Nappa, telling them they need to meet up in person. He's been careful about using the scouters this entire time too, and while he did use it on Earth, he really used it to a minimum. Since he can't be too sure about what the scouters record and who's spying on him, if someone is spying on him, he can never be too safe. And that's why Vegeta and Nappa agree to this. They do need to meet in person because it's the safest way to talk. So, they set up a meeting point. They're going to meet halfway somewhere so they can meet quicker. They are still pretty far away, but thankfully, this means they only have to wait a few months to meet instead of maybe a year. Unless they were to get on one of the bigger ships somehow, because right now they're just stuck with their attack balls. But that's fine, they'll make do with this. They are eventually able to meet up halfway at some other base, with Raditz giving the rundown on everything he saw. At first, Vegeta and Nappa were furious with him, thinking he's useless for not being able to recruit Kakarot, but while they briefly communicated with Raditz when he was on Earth, they suddenly realized that there was a reason he lost. They would have lost too, probably. Thankfully, Raditz was smart enough to not say anything over the scouters. That's why he also didn't flat out tell Goku what he was, because he wasn't sure he was listening. So, Vegeta at least commends him for playing it smart like that. Still, time is probably limited for them because of the fact that they went to Earth in the first place. Technically, Vegeta and Nappa aren't supposed to be here right now either, so next time they face Frieza, it's probably not going to be good. Same goes for Raditz too. Nappa thinks that they should all go to Earth to get Kakarot. If he really is a Super Saiyan like Raditz is claiming, well, he could be the best shot they have at defeating Frieza. Especially now because they made their move and tried to recruit another Saiyan, time is limited because soon enough Frieza will be asking what went on. And even though he only briefly used the scouter on Earth, still, there might be recordings of what he was talking about. Because apparently scouters do record audio clips, so going in they knew this, and there's probably clips of him talking to Kakarot. Thankfully Frieza doesn't have a reason to look right now at them. But the thing is, he definitely could in the future. If they're lucky, the scouter might have only saved these locally. But there is a chance it got transmitted back to the Frieza Force base if someone was listening. And knowing how much Frieza hates the Saiyans, he probably has those scouters tapped. Vegeta says they don't really have a choice, especially if Frieza starts to ask questions. He's not stupid. If he puts two and two together, he'll know where they went and why they went there. For Kakarot, they could have just told him that they needed his help to take over a planet. That's one thing, and Kakarot had no other info, so that was fine. And if he actually did go along with them, Frieza probably would have liked that. The issue is they went to Earth to find another Saiyan, and no one came back with them. Which will tell Frieza a few things. First of all, they were trying to recruit another Saiyan. Not a good look in the first place. Second of all, that Saiyan was too strong for them to defeat. Again, not a good look. And third, that Saiyan isn't an ally of theirs, which means he could be an enemy to the Frieza Force. These are three terrible things together, and even if they could have initially brought back a Saiyan to help them take over other planets, there still was that underlying motive of wanting to defeat Frieza eventually. All these factors together will point Frieza right in that direction and have him realize this could be the first act of a rebellion. Especially if he learns of the fact that the Saiyan might be so strong that he's potentially a Super Saiyan of legend. Vegeta says to just wait for now. That's really their only option here. Of course, they all talk in person, so this could all be discussed pretty openly. But people do notice other things on base. First of all, they notice that the three Saiyans are meeting up in the first place, which is weird because they're not really supposed to be here at the moment. Maybe they just happen to pass by each other, but still. There's also one person in particular noticing that Vegeta's not at the base that he should be, so he decides to ask around a bit. Thankfully he has colleagues on other bases too. It's Kui. He's being a bootlicker for Frieza like usual, just to spite Vegeta. Eventually he learns of what base Vegeta's at and asks some people there through the scouter. They didn't notice anything particularly strange, but they did see that Vegeta and Nappa seem agitated and maybe frightened for some reason. Seeing Vegeta being emo isn't necessarily anything new for them, but this is different. He seems almost scared over something, and they're not really sure why. Maybe it's just a hunch, but they do tell Kui this. Also unsure of why he's asking in the first place, but he tells them not to worry. This way he can get rid of Vegeta, and he could probably get on Frieza's good side too. Imagine if something actually is happening and he's the first one to inform Frieza of this. He'll be rewarded for his excellent skills, being able to sniff this out and also being loyal to Frieza. So, getting suspicious, he decides to look into this. It turns out there's actually recordings of what happened on Earth. No one bothered to check it because no one bothered to check it on Raditz in the first place. With such a low-level soldier on his own, and the fact that they didn't even know he left in the first place, there was no red flags raised, but now that Kui's actively looking into it just to spite the others, he finds something really interesting. First of all, Raditz left his post. Second of all, he went to this random planet to try and find somebody. It turns out that somebody, it was another Saiyan. And not just that, it's a Saiyan related to Raditz directly. This whole time there was another Saiyan out there and Raditz hid it, as well as the other two probably. Now this wouldn't really be an issue because Raditz is a low-class Saiyan. He's the weakest of the three, and if he had a brother somewhere, he's probably even weaker. That's not the case at all. He immediately gets Frieza to look at this. Frieza's not present on either base at the moment, but Kui's able to get in contact with Zarbon and Dodoria, and they alert Frieza too, showing him the things that Kui mentioned. There's one good thing about this. No Dragon Balls are mentioned, so there's no idea to go to Namek, or to go get the Dragon Balls in the first place on Earth. This also is initially how the Frieza Force discovered the Dragon Balls because they were spying on Vegeta and Nappa. At first, when Frieza hears that Raditz left his post, he's thinking, okay, next time he sees the Saiyans, he'll just punish them somehow. Then he learns there's another Saiyan out there who doesn't work with the other Saiyans. Okay, that's fine too. He'll get to that Saiyan eventually and kill him, but he's not a high priority, because he's probably weak in the first place. But of course, Frieza's able to slowly piece it together and realize this is probably a bad attempt at a rebellion. And unlike in the main story where he gets something out of it by learning about the Dragon Balls, he gets nothing out of this. So the three Saiyans leaving their duties, as well as hiding this other Saiyan from him, that of course raises some alarms as is. There are very few clips and they're just audio recordings, so Frieza can't really get much out of them. But from what he can gather, he hears Raditz read out Kakarot's power at one point, when it briefly shoots up to 3,000. But then strangely enough, Raditz decides to transform into a Grade 8. After this, he didn't have the Scouter on because he was a Grade 8, it didn't fit on him. So it just picked up distant audio from the battle, but he finds that weird. Transforming against Kakarot's one thing, but if its power was only 3,000, Raditz transforming into a Grade 8 should have been more than enough to defeat him. It should have been overkill if anything. But Frieza tries to enhance the recordings. The Scouter doesn't actually pick up any powers in this time, but he can hear Raditz shouting in surprise. He then hears Raditz de-transform, and then he immediately shuts off the Scouter, and he starts almost obsessing over these clips. Where are they hiding? There's more to this. And that other Saiyan couldn't have turned Grade 8 because in the clips he could actually hear Raditz talking about the fact that he has no tail. He keeps trying to analyze them, and trying to put together all the other pieces, eventually asking around to that other base where Raditz first arrived, and he seemed really badly beat up. Maybe that Saiyan was suppressing his power like Frieza does himself. That could be a concern, but even if that's the case, there's no way he's stronger than Frieza. The thing that irks Frieza though is, what if he's suppressing his power because he's potentially a Super Saiyan? And maybe that's why Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz are acting so weird recently, and they left their post in the first place. He has no proof, but he has a slight suspicion of it. And his paranoia is going to drive him even further. Let's go back over to Earth. Everyone is training on Kami's lookout. It's nothing too serious at the moment because mainly Piccolo is just paranoid, thinking that other Saiyans could show up and possibly be even stronger than Goku. Kami even thinks he's paranoid, especially with the fact that he's working with them. What drove him to do this in the first place? Well, to be frank, Piccolo doesn't really want to work with them, but the idea of other strong aliens out there looking to potentially take over Earth, it doesn't sit right with him. Not that he wants to defend this planet, he clarifies that this planet is his to take over, but really this is out of self-preservation. Especially with the fact that he knows how strong Goku is, and to think that there might be other Saiyans out there as strong as he is, it's a bit terrifying. Now Goku thinks he is being a bit paranoid because he doubts that the Saiyans are that strong. Raditz seemed really taken aback by his transformation. Of course, after learning about the Saiyans, Goku realizes that this transformation might be related to the Saiyans. It might not be exclusive to him. But it's strange that Raditz had no clue of what it was, seemingly at least because he didn't say anything about it and he didn't use it himself. But still, Goku likes the idea of training with everyone. They could all get stronger together, and it's a good opportunity to regroup with his friends once more. Plus, he did kind of let Raditz go, so if something happens, of course he'll want to fight and make sure things don't go wrong. He does look forward to it too. He's sure Raditz will be back with his Saiyan friends eventually, and he wonders how strong they'll truly be. Of course, he knows nothing about Frieza too. And he doesn't realize that Raditz being alive means they probably have a huge target on their backs. Another thing to note here is that Gohan's not training with them. Seemingly there's no dire reason for him to train, and they never got to see his explosive power against Raditz. It's Goku, Piccolo, Krillin, Tenshinhan, Yamcha, and Chaozu up there. Also, Yajirobe too. Although he's not really taking it seriously, the others don't know what to think, but they do take the opportunity to train. Especially with Krillin seeing it firsthand, he takes it very seriously. Ten and Chaozu probably would too, and as for Yamcha, he might not take it too serious, but he'd go along with the others. Again, Goku defeated this guy really easily, so sure, they want to be prepared if he comes back. And they do want to grow stronger to begin with too, but also they're confident in Goku's abilities. Let's go back out in space. Immediately after finding out all of this, Frieza goes to look for Raditz. Or even just Vegeta and Nappa. He learns of the last base they were at, and apparently they left. The Saiyans notice that they were being accosted and watched more by Frieza's crew because Kui put some of them on alert, and then eventually Frieza himself did. But with the time it took Kui to get this info, and for Frieza to actually get it himself too, about 2 weeks passed. The Saiyans already left for Earth a while ago. On top of this too, Frieza's far away from them now thankfully, and he has other responsibilities of course, being an emperor and all. So not only do they have a 2-week head start, but they have this head start from a completely different base that's also way closer to Earth. Naturally, Frieza has faster ships too. But still, there is a lot getting in his way. They have a head start, he also has to find where the planet is in the first place, and he has all his other responsibilities to take care of too. He sends some other nearby scouts to try and find the planet. Frieza might not be able to get there for a few months, and this can't really be his top priority because he has other things going on, but he's going to make his way there, especially because now he's getting a little bit concerned. He doesn't think he'll be defeated, but if he doesn't stop this right away, especially if there is a Super Saiyan there like he suspects, it could really get out of hand. A few months pass and Raditz returns back to Earth with Vegeta and Nappa. Of course everyone on the lookout senses this, and they're ready to fight the Saiyans. But there's no big entrance for the Saiyans either. They don't level a city or anything, they just land in the middle of nowhere, waiting there until Kakarot eventually arrives. And of course, Goku gets there with his group soon enough. He welcomes Raditz back, and realizes that these other two are his friends. Just at first glance, he could tell they're probably stronger than Raditz, just by sensing their power. Raditz actually did grow a bit after healing from fighting with Goku, but still, these two are far stronger. And the short one approaches Goku. It's Vegeta. He's the prince and expects Kakarot to follow his command. But Goku says just like he told Raditz, he's not going to join them. He knows that's why they're here, and the answer's still the same. Vegeta's not too surprised, but he does have a few questions for Goku before they end up fighting each other. He actually doesn't prefer to fight here, which is strange because that's exactly what they expected. But Vegeta knows of what Kakarot is. He's actually here to warn Kakarot of something. They want to work with him, and it's mutually beneficial. Frieza is after them, and he also knows of this planet now. So, he explains who Frieza and the Frieza Force are. Goku and crew are definitely shocked to hear this, and Goku's friends mostly direct their anger at Raditz because he drew Frieza here. Frieza wouldn't have known about this planet in the first place if Raditz never came. This isn't Goku's fault at all because even if he killed Raditz, Frieza would have still found out eventually. But because of this, Vegeta has a bargaining chip. They couldn't get Kakarot to join them, but still, Frieza now maybe views him as an enemy, and they want to use Kakarot's power to defeat Frieza. After that, they'll leave him alone. They know he doesn't want to join the Saiyans, and they know that they can't defeat him either. But either way, they're all on Frieza's radar, figuratively and literally. And Goku doesn't take much time to think about this. He's up for it. First of all, it's kind of his only choice here. It sounds like he's going to have to fight Frieza regardless, so it's better to actually have some more allies with him. Especially people who actually know about the enemy and can tell Goku more about himself, mainly for the sake of his own power. But on top of that, he's also up for the fight. This is kind of a secondary reason, but it sounds like a good challenge for him too. If this guy turned out to be stronger than his Super Goku form, he's really going to have to train hard to defeat him. And that reminds Vegeta. He has to see that transformation, so Goku shows it off. The three Saiyans have scouters that only work locally this time, since they don't need to communicate with anyone else. They just want to use this to read powers. And their scouters immediately stop working after Kakarot transforms. His power level shoots up to over 1 million before the scouters stop. They're simply bricked by Goku's great power. And Vegeta says no doubt, this seems like the power of a Super Saiyan. So that's what this is. The Super Saiyan of legend. Goku's glad to finally know what this is, even though they barely know anything about it themselves. Just the name of the form. Funny enough, Goku wasn't that far off by calling it Super Goku, so he thinks that's kind of funny. Whatever lies ahead for Goku and his friends, Goku's sure that he'll be ready. He'll train to tame this power even further and grow even stronger. He always knew that this great strength would be able to help him, but he's going to be facing his first really big challenge soon. But they have time on their side, and now new allies. Plus, they weren't really training too seriously before. Things are about to really shift, and Goku can't wait for what's next. Hopefully it all goes well though. Goku is pretty surprised to hear that this is actually related to him being a Saiyan. He thought so before, but he could never really confirm it, considering the fact that Raditz seemed to have no clue of what it was. It does make sense, and it's nice to actually have it confirmed for now. This also does really help in another aspect too. Given the fact that this is something related to the Saiyans, well, Goku realized that he needs the Saiyans' help for it, at least in terms of trying to get more info out of it. Now, they don't really know much about it either, but if anything, they'd at least know more than Goku does, because Goku just learned of what a Super Saiyan is today. Before then, he didn't even know of the name. This at least kind of helps strengthen their alliance, but in reality, Goku has way more info about Super Saiyan than them. He has had it for a while, and he's been practicing with it for a while too. By this point in the story, given how long he's had it, he's definitely got grade 4 by now. Full mastery over the form. He's not as strong as he was in the Cell Saga with grade 4, but he actually might be more experienced with Super Saiyan by now than he was in that arc, given how long he's had it. The Saiyans don't really have much info, rather than the fact that this used to be some sort of legend and they can never confirm if it was real or not. They didn't even know if the Super Saiyan was a person, a constant state of being for a particular Saiyan, or just a regular transformation. And now that they're discussing this, Raditz asks about Gohan. Has he ever trained, or showcased a power like Goku's? Goku jokingly says that he's surprised to see Raditz cares about his nephew. Obviously, he does know that Raditz is only asking because he's interested in Gohan's strength. And Nappa butts in too. He thinks that hybrid Saiyans have even greater potential than regular pure Saiyans. Before hearing about Goku, he thought a hybrid Saiyan would be what they needed to actually get a Super Saiyan. But it looks like that's not the case now. And now that they mention it, Piccolo's actually pretty curious too. He's there and he's been listening in this whole time. Again, he's really there as an enemy of my enemy situation, but now he's just there for the info. No one's ever gotten to see Gohan's rage, and he doesn't train with them, at least not as intensely as they train, so no one really knows the extent of Gohan's power here. Goku has had him learn the basics of martial arts, but they never taught Gohan to truly fight. Also, they never thought Gohan would actually fight alongside them, because first of all, as much as Goku would love to train Gohan, Chi-Chi was kind of against it, especially right now. And not to mention, the current things that they're setting out to do, Goku feels like it's a little bit too much for Gohan considering he's still a kid. Now, maybe later on he'd be capable of this type of stuff, and Goku does wonder if Gohan will be able to become a Super Saiyan eventually as well. Of course, he's confident in his son and thinks that maybe in the future he'll be pretty strong, but since the fight with Raditz went so differently, they've never seen Gohan's true strength. Goku has seen him do weird things here and there, but for the most part, he's never overtly seen anything that's made him think that Gohan's actually really strong right now. Vegeta was kind of hoping for that too. It seems like the kid hasn't had any opportunity to show his true potential yet, if there actually is any true potential there. but as it is now, his power level's probably way too low for anything. So he's more focused on Kakarot's power because they can actually see it firsthand. They can see he's a Super Saiyan, and he has such great power and control with it too. This is really good because it means that they might be able to become Super Saiyans as well. Since Super Saiyan appears to be a transformation, one utilized by a low-class Saiyan no less, that means they all should be able to use it as well. Especially Raditz because he's related to Goku, so if Goku has the opportunity to do this, then Raditz should be able to. He's the most genetically similar to Goku. As for Vegeta and Nappa, their higher classes and their higher power, well, it makes them confident that they'd be able to do it eventually too. Although Vegeta's still really surprised to see that a low-class Saiyan was able to get this strong, and seeing that he was surpassed by a low-class Saiyan too. It's such a strange thing. He's not the strongest Saiyan at the moment, and even disregarding Super Saiyan, Goku's just stronger than him as is. Vegeta has a lot on his mind from this, but most importantly, he knows now that he wants to become a Super Saiyan, and he's going to do anything in his power to do so. Not to mention, they kind of need to have it to defeat Frieza. Goku is really strong as is, but they don't know if it's going to be enough to fight Frieza because they don't know the true extent of his power, and on top of that, they'd love to be able to fight themselves as well. But there's a pretty big issue. They might be short on time. Frieza's definitely going to be coming to Earth soon, and they don't know when. It could be within a few weeks, it could be within a few months, it could be a few years. They don't know for sure. Well, if they really are short on time, Goku does have a few ideas of what to do. Mainly, the Room of Spirit and Time. It's a place where they can get a year's worth of training within a day. Normal people can't usually withstand it, but these Saiyans seem pretty tough, so maybe they should be able to withstand it. Besides, they don't even need to be in there for the full year. If the Saiyans can't handle it, they can at least test it out for a month or so. Vegeta also mentions Earth's gravity is way too weak. It's going to make their training go slower. Krillin wonders if Bulma's able to do something about that. All the Saiyans then look at him because this is the first time he talked, and Krillin gets kind of scared. Now, he's really going to have to push Bulma to make something because these Saiyans expect it out of him. He shouldn't have talked. These guys are way too intimidating for him. But Goku says that's a great idea. He never even considered that and thinks Krillin's onto something here. Of course, they will need Bulma's help and they don't know if she can even do something like this. But he tells Krillin that's an amazing idea. He'd love to try that as well. Gravity training sounds awesome. The Saiyans are brought up to the lookout and they do some brief training there. The rest of the group, of course, still isn't too trusting of the Saiyans, but thankfully, Goku's there so no matter what, they're going to be able to stop the Saiyans. Strangely enough, Kami then gets contacted by someone. It's King Kai. He's surprised that King Kai's reaching out to him, but King Kai mentions that Frieza's on his way to Earth, and he is pretty worried. Thankfully, he knows nothing of the Dragon Balls here yet. But King Kai sees an opportunity. This could be a chance to stop Frieza, and that would be beneficial for everybody in the galaxy. So, he wants to help out however little he can. He says he'd be willing to take on a student. Well, besides anyone in Vegeta's crew. Of course, Goku's the best pick for this, but Kami says Goku probably shouldn't leave because he's the best insurance they have against the Saiyans. If Goku's gone, who knows what the Saiyans would be up to. They're only allies here because they have a common enemy. For all he knows, they could try and kill everyone and take over Earth next, so they can't really have Goku leave them alone. He basically has to babysit them. But Kami has a few other choices. They're pretty strong and show a lot of promise. Krillin, Tenshinhan, and Piccolo. King Kai is honestly not too sure, mainly about Piccolo because Piccolo's still kind of a bad guy. Kind of like the Saiyans, he's mainly working with them just because they all have a common enemy. But Kami thinks this would be a perfect opportunity for Piccolo to grow even further. Not just in power, but in terms of his mind. He's noticed very slightly Piccolo's starting to soften up. He's not as evil as King Piccolo, nor is he as evil as he was before. This is a crucial moment in his life and a turning point. Not to mention, he's a strong warrior as is who's very motivated and shows a lot of promise. Kami tells all of them and gets their opinions. Krillin and Tenshinhan accept because this is a great chance to help defend Earth and to grow stronger. Ten especially wants to do this because he wants to see if he can catch up to Goku eventually. Piccolo reluctantly agrees to it, especially because of the prospect that he can grow stronger from it. King Kai is intrigued to see how these three will do as students. Yamcha and Chaozu are still on Kami's lookout training as well. Kami's going to continue working with them, but he feels that these three are more than ready to go there. Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa eventually enter the Room of Spirit and Time together. They only stay in for a few months to just get the hang of it. At first, it actually is really tough for them, especially with the further they go into it. They start having bigger trouble handling it. And if this goes well, they'll probably go back in later, maybe next time with Kakarot too. They do grow considerably stronger and leave after a few months of training in there. Another big purpose for this was to actually get them strong enough to train with Goku. Before Goku overpowered them so much that training with them would kind of hold them back, particularly Raditz and Nappa. And Goku kind of hoped they'd grow more in the time chamber, but he thinks that maybe it's the way they train. He's going to have to take it upon himself to train them. And honestly, the Saiyans kind of hate this. The fact that they have to stoop to getting Kakarot's help and having him be a de facto master for them, it's irritating and embarrassing. But they do know it will help them grow stronger, and that's what they need right now. Plus, he is the Super Saiyan. How else will they become Super Saiyans if they don't train with him? Frieza, of course, isn't going to get to Earth just yet, but for some of his soldiers, they are actually pretty close by, and they go there immediately. Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa are sent down to the surface to fight them, with Goku watching on. He'll join in if they need help, but he doubts they'll need it. This will be a good way for Goku to see how they fight, because he gets to see them in action, in a real fight for once. It's a couple dozen Frieza Force soldiers. Most aren't really that strong, but there are a few who have power levels in the 5 digits. And Goku's pretty impressed with how the Saiyans fight. They're able to defeat all the Frieza Force soldiers, and they don't even need to turn Great Ape. Before, Raditz and Nappa definitely would have needed to. They even want to compare their power levels at the moment, but Goku says not to rely on that. He relies on Sense and Ki first of all, and second of all, basing their power off numbers isn't always going to be reliable. That's why Raditz initially thought Goku was way weaker when he first came to Earth. He could see how truly differently these Saiyans think. They're clearly very battle smart, especially Vegeta. And Goku knew the Saiyans were very different from him, but he sees that they have completely different philosophies in terms of battle. Their styles of combat are completely different too. They fight so differently, and for different goals. Well, at least one thing they have in common is the fact that they all enjoy battle. So, that's one aspect they share. Meanwhile, training begins on King Kai's planet. King Kai's not sure how much time they have here, but maybe he will have enough time before Frieza arrives to teach them some things. But he could tell Piccolo's going to be kind of a problem. Not in terms of raw power. He's actually the first one to adjust to the gravity here. But in terms of swallowing his pride and training under King Kai. Piccolo's never had a master before. He's been his own master. He's molded his own life and learned his own techniques. Everything he's done is self-taught. But King Kai tells him that might actually be holding him back. King Kai can see the drive that Krillin and Tenshinhan have. But he asks Piccolo, why does he truly want to grow? He knows that he wants to defeat Goku one day, but beyond that, there's something more to it, isn't there? It is related to Piccolo not being able to beat Goku. He never was able to beat Goku before. He never even came close. In the World Tournament, he got completely embarrassed. Not to mention, Goku was holding back there just so he could have some sort of fun. At first, Piccolo's motive for wanting to beat Goku was vengeance. But over those 5 years, thinking to himself in solitude, and training to become stronger than before, he came to realize that he also felt insufficient. He felt weak. He feels like he's destined to do more. Goku represents all of his shortcomings. His pride's been shattered multiple times just by thinking about this and watching Goku fight. And King Kai could see what he means. And he could tell Piccolo's genuine about this. He could still tell that Piccolo has evil intentions and isn't really a good guy all around right now, but still, that's all suppressed. Slowly over time, Piccolo's been growing more and more into actually wanting to be a real warrior. Years ago, he just wanted to get revenge and take over Earth. But now, he's focused more on self-improvement for his own sake, and not just to dominate the planet and kill all his enemies. He assures Piccolo that he has the potential to grow here, but if he truly wants to be a rival to Goku, he's gonna have to change the way he thinks. He's gonna have to change his heart. As for the other two, he doesn't doubt that they'll be able to do this. But the thing is, Piccolo will probably have an issue with this. He does have a really good technique, his ultimate move that he created. He knows Piccolo is never going to be a purely good person. It's really tough to make anyone that in the first place. And maybe this can work without him even being fully good. But he gives Piccolo this as a goal. Try and work towards being able to use this technique. He'll need to rework himself completely. And even if he can't learn this ultimate move, he can learn some other things. Piccolo begins his training with the others. Honestly, King Kai doubts he'll be able to ever do the Spirit Bomb. Unless Piccolo somehow works around it and creates his own method of doing it, because he's still going to have evil in his heart. But King Kai told him all this because it could be a really good motivator. And who knows, one day he might actually be able to pull it off. In the meantime, at the very least, he could work on Kaioken. Piccolo promises to himself that he's going to catch up to Goku and beat him one day. Tenshinhan and Krillin kind of have the same motives as well. All part of a friendly rivalry, of course. And even Piccolo to some extent. It's not out of sheer hatred, it's just out of wanting to better himself. Back on Earth, Goku continues training with the Saiyans. They do interest Goku, but amidst all of this, he wonders, how strong are his friends growing on King Kai's planet? How strong is Piccolo growing? Given how much better he knows Piccolo now, he might even be able to call him a friend eventually, if not already. He could tell one of those three is going to be a great rival to him too. He could tell these Saiyans probably won't stay long. This might be a temporary thing. They will be out there, and he'll be able to fight them eventually too. And they have a lot of potential to grow strong. But he's more interested in the people who are here already, who might be able to learn things that he doesn't even know yet. He can't wait to see what they're able to accomplish. The Saiyans briefly go back in the Room of Spirit and Time, this time with Goku there. They're able to handle it much better, and they push through it. What kind of Saiyans are they if they can't handle this type of intense training? This is what's going to make them become Super Saiyan in their eyes. Vegeta especially is pushing himself hard. A low-class warrior surpassing him, that doesn't sit right with him. As the prince, he's got to be as strong as possible. Not just to prove himself to the others as being the strongest, but also to prove it to himself. This is a necessity for him. No matter what it takes, he's going to become a Super Saiyan, and he's going to be able to defeat Frieza. Goku can definitely see their drive. And still, it's so strange for him to see how different these Saiyans are from him. All the while, Frieza gets ever so closer to Earth. He wished they knew before so they didn't waste time, and he wishes that they could just head there directly. But again, he still has other responsibilities to take care of. Besides, whatever's awaiting him on Earth, it's not going to be able to stand up against him. A Saiyan revolt, even if one of them is a Super Saiyan or something, or even if all of them are Super Saiyans, it's not going to matter. He will win here. He is going to put an end to this. No matter what, he's going to come out on the top victorious. The group has a few extra months to train, and then Frieza actually comes to Earth, finally having made his way here. The group on King Kai's planet comes back, and they're able to make it back pretty quickly, just in time in fact. They've gotten way stronger with King Kai and have picked up on a few techniques. Notably Kaioken, which Piccolo can use the best thanks to his regeneration. But Ten and Krillin could use it pretty well too. Goku could tell these three have grown strong, and he's pretty glad to see it. especially given his history with them and the fact that they're all his rivals. Notably, Piccolo's demeanor has changed a bit, in the sense that he seems more warmed up to being around them. That's probably the greatest part to Goku. There's a big crew waiting for Frieza. There's Goku, Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa. Yamcha and Chaozu have been with Kami, and they're here too, joined by Piccolo, Tenshinhan, and Krillin, who are with King Kai. Goku's excited to see how strong this guy is, but also, he does need to focus on actually keeping everything safe here, considering everything he learned from the Saiyans during his time with them. The first thing they face is a wave of a bunch of soldiers. No one particularly strong though, and they're defeated pretty easily, followed up by 5 individual ships arriving. Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa immediately notice who it is, the Ginyu Force. Nappa thinks they can handle this, and Vegeta tells Goku to not get in the way here. This is their battle. At least they think so, until another ship lands nearby, with an incredibly strong power on it. It's not Frieza either, it's King Cold. Well, Vegeta didn't really expect this, but it makes sense that Frieza brought out all the big guns, especially if he expects a Super Saiyan here maybe. Looks like he's really scared. Change of plans then. They'll be fighting King Cold. Vegeta tells the Z Fighters they could take on the Ginyu Force, but just watch out for their abilities. He's sure they could handle it though. And it's perfect too because it's a 5v5. One final ship arrives, with Frieza himself stepping off. It seems his hunch was right. Vegeta and his crew have come here for some reason, but it's been made very clear by the fact that Goku's also there, so there's another Saiyan here. Why would they come all the way here for him? Especially because he looks to be a low-class warrior. And Frieza even notes that he looks somewhat familiar to another low-class Saiyan he saw before, but he can't quite put his finger on it at first. And then it hits him. Ah, it's the one who rebelled against him. Is it a coincidence, or are the two related? No matter though, because that comforts him. There's no way that guy could be a Super Saiyan. He remembers defeating that other low-class warrior so easily. He died alongside Planet Vegeta. So maybe there is no Super Saiyan. Maybe they just came here to start some sort of weird rebellion with another Saiyan on their side. Although, it's not going to be that easy. But Vegeta yells out to Frieza and says he has something to show him. He, Raditz, and Nappa are then surrounded by a golden aura. In unison, they power up, showing their brand new transformation, Super Saiyan. Obtaining this form was grueling, but thanks to Kakarot, they were finally able to achieve it. Naturally, Frieza's mortified, and even King Cold's a bit scared too. He knows Frieza was terrified of this the whole time, but he didn't expect these three to have it. Although, he's not too concerned. He feels he could take these three on. Frieza's about to join him, but Goku then calls out to Frieza. He's not fighting them. Frieza's gonna fight him. Frieza's confused at first because he should be fighting the Super Saiyans. Why would he fight this random low-class warrior? And on top of that, who is he to order Frieza around? Well, he's the guy who's gonna defeat Frieza. He heard Frieza was the strongest in the universe, and Goku's the strongest here on Earth. Frieza laughs this off at first, but then he realizes this guy might actually be a Super Saiyan. And he gets serious asking Goku to show it off. Goku says he will, in time. He wants to see what Frieza's made of first, though. And he gives Frieza a challenge. Push him into using Super Saiyan. Of course, Frieza takes huge offense to this. This fool's underestimating his power. It's all a bluff. Why is he not transformed either? But he watches on the fight between King Cold and the three other Saiyans, and he's actually holding his own for a bit, which makes Frieza not as worried. He's stronger than King Cold, and his father's fighting 3 Super Saiyans at once, so Frieza's not too terrified. He was briefly taken aback by the form, but now he's recollected himself. He'll entertain this Saiyan for a bit before killing the others. First form Frieza begins fighting Goku in base, and Goku completely dogwalks him. Is that his true power? He asks Frieza if he has some sort of power hidden away because this isn't really doing it for him, which eventually pushes Frieza into his final form. And now Goku's happy. That's more like it. But he could still kind of tell that Frieza's holding back in a way, so until Frieza stops holding back, he's going to be holding back too. He doesn't need his full strength either. Frieza's only at 50% power right now, which is incredible that Goku made him jump up that quickly. The others are taken aback sensing this power. But Goku's fighting him pretty easily in base. They're probably going to win here. As the Ginyu Force faces the Z Fighters, it's not really a good matchup for them. First of all, they're overpowered, and second of all, they're outplayed. Krillin's easily able to see how they fight together. Ten and Chaozu fight Jason Birder. Yamcha fights Goldo. Krillin fights for Coom, and Piccolo fights Ginyu. Goldo's the biggest threat thanks to his time-stopping ability, but the first time he does it, Yamcha's able to figure out a way around it, trying to finish it in one shot while time isn't stopped, which is easier said than done until Krillin joins him, having won his fight pretty easily. With the sneak attack from Krillin, Goldo's defeated. Yamcha's a bit bummed because he wanted to win that fight on his own, but given that guy's ability, it's probably better they teamed up. Goldo clearly did not have the power to back that skill up. The rest of the Ginyu Force is defeated easily too. Although, as Piccolo wins his fight, Recoome then somehow gets back up, and goes to attack Piccolo. Of course, this is no trouble for him, and he's not even using his full power. But thanks to the distraction, Ginyu gets back up, attempting to swap bodies with him. But before he even gets the chance, a Kienzan cuts him in half. Piccolo thanks Krillin. He would have liked to handle that himself, but it's nice that Krillin was looking out for him. They should probably help the other Saiyans, though. Even with the 3 in Super Saiyan, fighting King Cold is still pretty tough. They overpower him collectively, but individually, none of them actually overpowers him. So King Cold is kind of able to hold his own by just focusing on one person at a time, but he's fighting a losing battle, and he kind of knows that too. And once the rest of the Z Fighters jump in, it's a pretty easy battle, although the Saiyans aren't too happy because they wanted to defeat King Cold themselves. But it's much better to do it this way. While all those fights were going on, Goku's fight with Frieza of course continued too. And after seeing Frieza's final form, Goku tells Frieza that if he arrived a few years earlier, he might have won, even against a Super Saiyan. Frieza says he's still waiting to see that Super Saiyan form. It's starting to sound like a bluff if Goku's not going to actually use it. Goku says he'll get to see it, when Frieza uses his full strength at least. But even if Frieza showed up earlier and overpowered them significantly, Goku's sure he would have found a way to win. Ever since the Saiyans came to Earth, Goku's learned a lot about himself and how he grows as a warrior. He thought he knew everything there was to being a martial artist, but he didn't know anything about being a Saiyan. Not that it particularly interests him, just the abilities of a Saiyan rather. The fact that he grows after battle, the fact that he could transform, the fact that by blood, he's not an Earthling. But you know what? If Frieza's not going to show his full power, Goku will. He's hoping to coax Frieza into it. He was hoping this would be a more interesting battle. But instantly he transforms into Super Saiyan, and he lets Frieza in on a secret. His level of Super Saiyan is way better than the other Saiyans over there. He's completely mastered the form, a while ago actually. He's tamed it into being 100% efficient. He could use it as easily as breathing. He walks closer to Frieza as he tells him all this, with Frieza mortified, stepping back in fear. Goku's not even trying to scare him, he's just info-dumping about the form. It's all very interesting to him. He tells Frieza he'll give him one last chance to show his full power, asking him to at least not make this boring. Frieza quickly jumps in the air, charging a death ball and throwing it right down at the planet, trying to blow it up. He knows he's not going to win. Especially after Goku vanishes, catches the death ball, and then just dissolves it in his hand. Effortlessly, in fact. And it makes Goku wonder to himself, maybe he's grown too strong for his own good. Even when he was handicapping himself in this fight, he still was ahead of Frieza. He must have grown a lot over that time. The time chamber probably helped with that too. But Frieza starts powering up, actually showing his full strength. This is right around the time when everyone else finishes their battle. And of course they're all distracted seeing Frieza power up. But Goku stands there completely unfazed, watching on in excitement, only to be disappointed when he sees that Frieza only grew about 2 times stronger. He was at half power before, and now at 100%, he's definitely stronger but still not at Goku's level. But since Frieza was nice enough to actually show his full power, Goku will show his too. Frieza's stomach drops. Was he not at full power? Even if he did fight Super Saiyan Goku, he would have lost, easily in fact. But Goku's just doing this as a courtesy. He starts to charge Ki. His hair spikes up further, as sparks of electricity appear around him too. The transformation completes, and he tells Frieza this is his actual full power. Simply put, he can call this Super Saiyan 2. Frieza tries attacking, and Goku doesn't even fight back. He just either dodges all the attacks effortlessly, or he takes them head on with no damage. You know, for the strongest in the universe, he hoped for more. Frieza's of course starting to get desperate, and once more tries to blow up the planet, but Goku says that's not going to work. Well, it would, if he actually could blow up the planet, but Goku's not going to let it happen at least. He even gives Frieza a chance to leave. Come back when he's stronger. But Frieza's angered beyond belief. He's not going to let this go. Well, Goku at least gave him the chance, and Frieza ends up dying to Super Saiyan 2 Goku with a single attack. Goku should have held himself back just to have a little fun in that battle, but he did promise Frieza he'd show his full strength if Frieza showed his. He didn't want to break that promise. This whole thing just leaves everyone stunned. First of all, Yamcha feels like he's been left behind, seeing how strong Krillin and Ten are. Chaozu doesn't feel the same way, he's just glad to see that Ten's grown so strong. But of King Kai's students, Piccolo's definitely the most impressive. Krillin and Ten actually did use Kaioken a bit in their battles, but not a lot. They didn't really need it, but they used it to outspeed their opponents at points. But Piccolo didn't even use it at all. He just fought with his base power the entire time. Everyone grew so strong over this time period, and Goku congratulates them all. They didn't need him here. They won due to their own strength. Well, yeah, they did need him. They say without Goku's power they wouldn't have been able to win here. But Goku begs to differ. They've all grown strong in their own ways, and with their collective power, they probably could have defeated Frieza, especially due to Frieza's demeanor. He's way too cocky for his own good. Had Goku not actually been here, Frieza's cockiness definitely would have been the end of him, especially against the other fighters that probably would have wanted to finish it quicker. He did help some of them grow stronger, but at the end of the day, it is their own strength. Following this, the Saiyans actually stick around for a bit. Thanks to how long they've been on Earth, they're kind of accustomed to it right now, and they don't really have anywhere else to go. And Goku kind of looks forward to getting to know them more. They're definitely still very cold and not very Earthling-like, but they're at least strong warriors, and Goku has learned a lot more about them. They're still not entirely likable, but soon enough they will be. And Goku's pretty excited at the prospect of having a brother, as weird as the whole circumstance is here. Thankfully, with how different Raditz' introduction went, Goku doesn't actually hate him. Of course, Goku tests out the power of his friends. He's glad to see how strong Krillin's grown, same for Ten and Piccolo. The latter two being rivals to him, and Krillin of course being his best friend and a rival. Of course, they're not on his level because Goku's just so far ahead of everybody, but he's amazed at how strong they've grown. He didn't mean to leave them behind like that, but soon enough they will catch up to him. At least that's what Piccolo thinks, and Goku looks forward to that day. Piccolo specifically has grown a bunch as a warrior, and here, the rivalry is flourishing. It seems that Piccolo actually will stay as Goku's main rival here, but he does wonder about the Saiyans, although they kind of keep to themselves. One day at Goku's house, there's a knock at the door. It's Vegeta, but something looks a little bit different about him, almost as if he's a bit older. Not that he really shows age, but Goku can tell something's different about him, just his demeanor and everything. He hands Goku some vial, telling him to take this when he's sick. Of course, this just leaves Goku confused. Why is Vegeta giving him random medicine? And Vegeta still can't believe Bulma had him do this, but it makes sense, although it is really awkward for him. But he explains further. As much as he wants to call Kakarot an idiot here, he can't because there's no way he'd know this. He's not the Vegeta that Kakarot knows. He's from the future. This is future Vegeta, and he explains why he's here and how he's here. In the future, Goku ended up dying in the heart virus, and the androids attacked. This time it did go a little bit better, but still, not great. With Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz around, the androids were barely defeated. But it wasn't right away, and it did take a lot of time. Even some of the stronger warriors like Piccolo and Krillin didn't make it. Only a few people survived. Vegeta, Raditz, and Tenshinhan, as well as Vegeta's son Trunks, who he doesn't mention here because he's not born yet. He even says that Raditz wouldn't have made it if Nappa didn't sacrifice himself, which surprises Goku a lot. The Saiyans giving up their lives for each other? They really must have changed in the future. Well, he asks about his family. Vegeta doesn't really know how to tell him, so he just flat out says it. Gohan did not make it. At one point when they were attacked, Gohan had a weird outburst of rage which they've never really seen before. It made him jump into the battle, and it did make him a lot stronger too, but he couldn't do anything against the androids. This was earlier on too. He simply didn't know how to fight for himself. Chi-Chi and Ox King are still alive, and so is Bulma. She was the one who made the time machine. He gives Goku all the info he needs. They did win after all, but it took years and cost them everything. Hopefully this reverts everything. And Vegeta says he could tell the others because Vegeta obviously doesn't need to hide his identity here. But he tells Goku one more thing, and it's almost like he says it with a sense of regret. He tells Goku to give the Saiyans time to adjust here. This Vegeta has grown much more into an Earthling by now, and he knows how they used to be. He also realizes he's blessed. He's one of the few survivors of the androids, and he has Bulma and Trunks. He has a family. But even though the Saiyans seem alien right now, in time they will be affected by this planet. Goku isn't too sure why he says this, almost as if Vegeta regrets not knowing Goku more, or his other two Saiyan allies. He still does have Raditz, but by the time Vegeta actually started to grow connections with people, Kakarot and Nappa were long gone. Vegeta also says he'll return soon enough to make sure everything went okay. Although he does wonder if Kakarot's going to try to destroy the androids beforehand or let them come and fight him later. He assumes the latter, but it won't be a problem. Although the androids in his timeline were really strong. They were based on some data from Goku. But Goku never fought at his full power too much, so Jiro didn't really have too much to work with either. Thankfully, this held the androids back from being too strong. But maybe that'll change here because he's going to have more data. Not to mention the fact that Vegeta ascended Super Saiyan as well. And hearing of everyone that died, Goku of course takes this very serious. And he thanks Vegeta. He'll take everything he said to heart. But before Vegeta leaves, he wants to spar a bit. So the two go outside and get ready to fight. Vegeta of course won't turn this down. But the second Vegeta powers up, somebody else arrives in the area. The present Vegeta. He sensed Kakarot's power and, strangely enough, his own. And the second he sees the spitting image of himself, he's immediately confused. What the hell's going on here? President Vegeta immediately has a ton of questions. I mean, he's looking at himself. Of course he's gonna have these questions. He doesn't even know what to think. The only reason he doesn't immediately attack him is because Goku doesn't seem to care. And Goku tries to get him to calm down, with future Vegeta then explaining who he is. That kind of pisses Vegeta off though. Did his future self plan on not running into him at all? Actually, yeah, it would have caused a lot more problems. He was going to return eventually anyways, but he didn't really want to stay here too long, and he knew if he saw himself, he'd have to stay here a little bit longer than normal. But Vegeta tells his future self he already knows what he's going to ask for. He wants to spar, and it's not going to take too long. So the two get ready for a battle, with Vegeta instantly turning Super Saiyan, and future Vegeta not transforming right away. Vegeta's going to have to push him into transforming, isn't he? He's a bit angered at first, but then again, this is him from years in the future. It's only natural that he's grown far stronger. Future Vegeta is able to fight his past self off in base, eventually then showing off Super Saiyan and finishing the battle this way. This isn't unexpected for him either. He knows how strong his past self was at this point in time. Nothing has changed yet, so there's nothing really too interesting for him. And you know what? Vegeta's glad that he lost. Normally he wouldn't like this, but that's his future self. He expects his future self to be that much stronger, so this is good. This makes him happy. But now for the true fight. Future Vegeta versus Goku. Future Vegeta spent a bunch of time trying to surpass Goku. He was always at a level that Vegeta just couldn't seem to reach, and he's been waiting for this. The opportunity to fight Kakarot once more. He tells Goku to hold nothing back, and Goku didn't plan on it anyways. He wonders how all those years of experience and training have treated Vegeta. Then again, the androids did set Vegeta back a bit. But still, after they were defeated, he had all those extra years. So Goku's curious to see what level he's at now. The two transform into Super Saiyan 2. Goku's not too surprised. He expected Vegeta to already have that. Currently, Goku is working to go beyond it himself, and he wonders where Vegeta's aspirations lie. The battle is surprisingly really close, and present Vegeta watches on amazed. The rest of Goku's family then comes out of the house too, because Chi-Chi felt all the commotion, with Ox King and Gohan interested to watch what's happening. And Goku can't believe it. This is the first time in a while that he's felt a true challenge like this. After all these years, finally someone's able to push him. The tables have turned for once. Instead of Goku having a crazy head start on everyone, well, now with future Vegeta here, he has a crazy head start on everyone in this timeline. Naturally due to him being so far in the future. It balances it out with Goku. And despite all those extra years, it's not an easy battle for Vegeta, but he's glad to see how much he's grown personally, especially with the fact that he ends up winning this battle. But only by a slight margin. Kakarot still is incredibly powerful. He didn't realize how far ahead Kakarot truly was. This is the first time he got to see his full power, and the first time he got to beat Kakarot. Although, he's not too sure how to feel about this because, while he is stronger and he did win this fight, he's had much more time to grow, so this victory isn't too big of an ego boost. The fact that Kakarot's still a challenge to him is insane. But Goku commends him. It's the first time someone's got him that excited in a fight. At least, the first time in a long while. It at least lets him know that there's still challenges out there and he hasn't reached his ceiling. Present Vegeta just watches on not knowing what to think, as future Vegeta ends up leaving. And Vegeta vows that he will surpass both of them. Not just Kakarot, but his future self too. Everyone trains in preparation for the androids, because they don't really know what to expect. Goku thinks that if future Vegeta was able to defeat the androids, then he should be able to as well. Although he's not too sure how strong they really are and how easy it'll be. Of course, he's not going to get cocky over it. Keep in mind, the androids in this scenario will be stronger than normal, based on all the great data they have on Goku because he got stronger so much earlier on. And it still was a tough fight for the future crew. They had Vegeta, Raditz, Tenshinhan, and Trunks. Vegeta and Raditz have gone beyond Super Saiyan, and Ten's really strong as is, thanks to his King Kai training. But in the present timeline, they know to expect the threat, and Goku will be here. And over this period of training, Goku actually tries to train Gohan for a bit. Of course, he's way far behind because all he knows right now is the basics. Goku has shown him some things here and there, but Gohan hasn't really trained too much at all in this scenario, and he's not really too up for it either. But he did hear what future Vegeta was saying, and he did see that fight that went on. Considering future Vegeta came to his house and said that, he overheard the part where he ended up dying in the future because he never actually learned to fight. Part of him does wonder if he can't help, but he feels like it's already too late. But hey, worst case scenario, he spent some time with Goku. Although he still doesn't really feel like his power will help, if at all. Not that they would know either. But Goku wonders why Vegeta would even say that. The other three Saiyans have always thought that Gohan would have greater potential due to him being a hybrid Saiyan, but Vegeta almost spoke as if he saw that happen firsthand. But that doesn't make sense, he said Gohan didn't fight. How would he know that a hybrid Saiyan can actually grow that strong? And Goku also wonders, maybe it's because he became a Super Saiyan so early on. What about Gohan? Could he do that at the same age? Maybe he could do it even earlier than Goku was able to, hopefully without the same type of trigger. We then arrive to the point when the androids are supposed to show up, with androids 19 and 20 arriving in one of the cities. By now, Goku already has suffered the effects of the heart virus due to his intense training and the fact that he's been using Super Saiyan 2 so much. It actually brought on the symptoms way earlier on. He doesn't know when it happened for future Goku, but at least for him, it happened not too long after Vegeta showed up, probably due to all the intense training, but still, he can't be too sure. At the very least, he's cured from it, so there's no point in worrying about it. He's had a bunch of great training too, and all the other people have as well. He beat the heart virus, and now he has to beat the androids. While looking around the city, Piccolo's the first to stumble upon Android 19, with others sensing him fighting somebody, but they can't feel the power from the other person. So they immediately rush over and see him fighting Android 19, but by the time they're there, Piccolo's already won his battle. That guy definitely wasn't an easy opponent to fight. And there's another android around, so he wonders if that guy's even stronger, and he also warns them. This guy was able to absorb his energy, at least somewhat. Thankfully, the android seemed pretty surprised by Kaioken, and by quickly jumping into Kaioken times 20, he was able to break free from the android, target both of his arms and cut them off, and then defeat the android. Krillin and Ten look on with amazement. Kaioken times 20? They're barely pushing times 5. Piccolo's using Kaioken so easily. Amidst their training, they saw this too. He could actually go even farther beyond times 20. That's him holding back. And across the city, Goku encounters Android 20, who is pretty powerful, and the energy absorption catches him off guard, but Goku's still way stronger than him. Jiro didn't realize how strong Goku's grown in the meantime. He didn't have enough time to ascend Super Saiyan 2, but he knows he's going to get there soon enough. And either way, Super Saiyan 2 should be more than enough for this, with Android 20 being defeated next. So, is that all? Those two were tough opponents, but they expected more. It's probably a good thing. But they're going to wait around here a little bit more because Vegeta's supposed to arrive at any moment. And eventually Vegeta does arrive back in the past. He has one other person that came along with him, a very unfamiliar face that they don't recognize. Future Vegeta says he couldn't give away this info before, but the person that came along with him, it's his son, Trunks. When Raditz, Nappa, and President Vegeta arrived to the scene as well, Vegeta could instantly tell. Well, it makes sense that he didn't hear about that before. Over that brief time skip, he ended up having a kid with Bulma. And Goku finally sees what future Vegeta meant. The whole reason he knows about Hybrid Saiyan potential is because he saw it through Trunks. But he just couldn't tell Goku at the time. Okay, that makes sense to him. Vegeta would have brought the others along, but they're only here for a brief moment. They just want to make sure everything went okay, and he brought someone extra just in case they needed the help, but the time machine can only fit the two of them after all. Raditz and Ten stayed behind in the future. Raditz is a bit bummed out because he wanted to fight his future self, but they're all focused on the issue at hand, the androids. Vegeta's glad to hear that they were defeated, but the more they talk about the androids, the more he comes to realize that those aren't the two he encountered. The ones from his timeline were androids 17 and 18, a guy and a girl, twins. It sounds like they fought an old man and a completely artificial android. The ones they were fighting were actual cyborgs. They were part human. So they definitely fought different androids, which worries future Vegeta because that means there's more androids. Although the other two haven't shown up. 17 and 18 are nowhere to be seen. The next best option is to try and find the lab where they were made. Goku does note something interesting, and it seems like that android that he fought, he had a personal grudge against Goku. And it seemed like he was commanding the other one. But he doesn't recognize the guy. It was just some old dude with a mustache. But he was definitely part human. So they can at least work with that, and even Bulma gets to help. Which is also interesting for her because, first of all, she gets to see the future version of Vegeta and Trunks, and also the creation that her future self made, the Time Machine. She really is great, isn't she? But anyways, hearing about this info, she puts two and two together and realizes, someone with a personal grudge against Goku, who is with the Red Ribbon androids. That might be the guy who created it, which means he's a Red Ribbon scientist most likely. They can't piece it together right away, but eventually, she's able to find out that it might be Dr. Gero. And then once Goku sees a picture of him, yeah, that definitely is the guy. Now it's time to actually try and find his lab, which is easier said than done. Bulma really thinks they should have just done this when Vegeta first came to the past timeline. They could have asked for Shenron to prevent the androids from even coming here. But Vegeta expected it to go this way. He knows it wouldn't happen like this. They're able to retrieve some of the parts from the destroyed Android 19. Thankfully, Piccolo didn't completely destroy him. And from what they could salvage, there's some sort of tracker that allows them to find the main base, making it a lot easier for them. Bulma comes along to the lab with them, and they see that everything's completely intact. Vegeta and Trunks see the androids in their pods, and they confirm that those are the two who caused havoc in their timeline. Thankfully, they haven't been awakened yet. But as Bulma looks around at the blueprints for everything, she comes to see that those two are actually humans. Just like Vegeta and Trunks said, they're modified humans who were kidnapped by Dr. Gero. This happened against their will. All the other androids are completely artificial, and apparently failed projects, but those two at least, she wonders if she could save them somehow. She'd feel kinda bad just completely obliterating them. Yeah, they're evil in the future timeline, but here they haven't done anything yet, and yeah, that is true. Also, they had no say in this. Gero kidnapped them and turned them into androids. From what she could see, they were programmed to be this way. She at least wants to try and fix it and do some sort of good here. Vegeta and Trunks aren't really too sure, but they go along with it because they obviously trust Bulma's judgment. Krillin even agrees with this too, and Goku thinks the reasoning behind it is good. It would be kinda bad to just blow them up with everything else. But as for the rest of the lab, it's probably best to destroy it. But before they do that, Bulma tells them something else. She found some weird set of blueprints that she can't find the actual project for. They look around and eventually find a secret entrance. There's another level to the lab with some sort of computer there. Another project of Gero's, Cell. Well, it's a good thing they found this too because this is clearly a threat as well. Bulma, of course, is glad to take all the info for herself because this is some great research. But now that they know everything, it's time to destroy the lab completely. So they all go outside as Goku goes up in the air. He aims a blast below, and he completely incinerates the area, destroying every bit of the lab. Besides 17 and 18, all of Gero's projects are now gone. Although they do wonder about that Cell thing because future Vegeta and Trunks never encountered an android called Cell. Bulma begins work on androids 17 and 18, and she is actually able to remove the programming from them, as well as removing the bombs from their body, which is a bit tougher because it's actual surgery. But given her perseverance, she finds a way. They still have no clue of where these two androids are from or who they are. Bulma's not even sure if they remember what happened to them. Once they're healed, they wake up, now not needing to be activated. She couldn't remove all the android parts from them, and she wasn't sure if they even wanted that, but she at least wanted to remove the bomb considering it's a bomb. They can't just walk around with that. And the programming from Gero is gone too. They're back to their normal selves. When the two wake up, they just look around the lab that they're in, with Bulma trying to explain what happened, and they don't exchange many words. They just leave going off on their own, which makes sense to her. There's not really too much to say in that situation. Bulma's glad she could at least somewhat give them their lives back. With no threat of the androids, Vegeta and Trunks return to their timeline, glad that there was no issues here. Goku and future Vegeta do fight one more time, and this time Goku actually ends up winning. It makes sense, he's been training intensely these past few years, and with more people to train with. Although the fight was still really close, Goku's just glad that he could fight him again. But future Vegeta promises him, the next time they meet, hopefully it'll be under better circumstances, and he will be the one to win in that battle. He beat Kakarot once, and he'll do it again. Also, he's glad Trunks was actually born in this timeline. He wasn't too sure, but they played it safe, and it ended up happening, so that's good. They return home with knowledge of Cell as well. Another android could show up anytime. Meanwhile, up at the lookout, Kami senses something weird. It feels like a mix of a bunch of energies together, and it's definitely something evil. A bunch of people are disappearing, and it seems that this monster is the cause of it. It's terrifying. He's never felt anything like this. He has to warn the others, but what he doesn't realize is that he just sent Cell. Given the fact that there still was time travel here, that Cell from the other timeline, he showed up here as well. And by now he's actually active. Of course he starts absorbing people, but he kinda needs to lay low. He's waiting for the androids to appear, but nothing's happened yet. There's no android 17 or 18 in sight. Did he go to a timeline where they didn't get activated? Or does he just need to wait a little bit longer? He's not too sure, but either way, he just needs to lay low for now. He'll be able to achieve his perfect form soon enough. About a year passes since future Vegeta left. By now, Kame has told everyone about Cell, but Cell's been moving even more slowly because now he knows everyone's on his tail. Until he can actually find the androids, he needs to be a little bit more covert to say the least, and he's already pretty covert about it anyways. So occasionally here and there he will absorb people, but it's not going to be a bunch of people at once, not entire cities like before. Slowly he's growing, but not enough. But eventually he does it. He's able to finally locate the androids. 17 and 18 are actually still alive. He was about to get desperate and just attack as is. But this way, he could achieve perfection. Although there's an issue. He only finds one at a time. Android 17 is nowhere to be seen, and he finds Android 18. So he goes to absorb her. Thankfully for him, she has no knowledge of him. So absorbing her is pretty quick. And with this, he achieves his semi-perfect form. He can already feel way more power coursing through him. And maybe even just like this, he'll be able to fight the others. Remember, this version of Cell is stronger, because first of all, he was around for a year longer, and also the data he used to develop is way different. It isn't a significant amount, but still, noteworthy enough. And when he transforms, this creates a huge burst of power. Everyone can sense him immediately, and since they've all been trying to find him, they immediately go over to where he is. He does attempt to hide and suppress his power, but by the time he does this, it's already too late. Goku's already arrived, the fastest of the group. Others show up not too long after, but Cell's pretty confident in himself. He did want to achieve his perfect form first, but if he has to fight now, then so be it. With his semi-perfect form, this should be enough. He'll achieve perfection later on. And what better person to fight than Goku himself, the strongest one here, the person he was meant to destroy. Goku powers up into Super Saiyan 2. It all makes sense now. So this is Cell, that one thing they found in Jiro's lab. They're not sure how he's here because they destroyed him, but they assume it has something to do with time travel. But they put all the pieces together and realize he's a pretty big threat. Cell at first feels pretty good about this. Goku died pretty early on in his timeline, but still, he has data of Super Saiyan 2 because Goku unlocked it by then, although he barely used it. But still, this is nothing too crazy for him. Even as is, he feels like he could fight Super Saiyan 2 Goku. But Goku's way stronger than he realizes. Goku completely outpaces him. He's grown so much in the past year, and even before that too, thanks to Vegeta giving them a heads up. And the craziest thing is, he's holding back right now. Bulma ended up studying some of the data she found from Jiro, so even though Cell wasn't an immediate threat, they did know about him, and they know that he has DNA from everybody, including Piccolo. Goku does remember Bulma mentioning the fact that he could probably regenerate too. Maybe Cell would have won here if they didn't have all the prep time and knowledge about him. Actually, it's barely prep time because they didn't realize he was going to come here. But even so, Goku knows to destroy every bit of him. It's a shame because it sounded like he would be a pretty interesting fighter, but he knows he can't risk this. Quickly, he charges a Kamehameha. Cell's terrified at Goku's showcase of power, especially because, amidst the blast, Goku suddenly powers up into something else. It's very quick, and he barely gets a glimpse of it. Because the second Goku powers up to this, Cell's eradicated. With the Dragon Balls, they wish back everyone that Cell killed. They wanted to wait so they didn't have to make multiple wishes, and now that he's actually gone, they could do this. But the rest of the group is just pretty shocked at Goku's showcase of power. Obviously, Goku's always training, and he has grown stronger since. But what he showcased against Cell, they've never seen before, especially the other Saiyans. They're still trying to achieve Super Saiyan 2 and the mastery of it that Goku had. And he's already gone far beyond it. He got something else. Oh, that. Yeah, Goku says that he recently found out about this. It's pretty new to him, and he can't really use it for too long, so he only briefly powers up into it when he really needs to. He might have not actually needed it there against Cell, but it was at least a good chance for him to finally use it. He just calls it Super Saiyan 3 for now. Everyone else is so far behind Goku, and he's still going way beyond them. Every time it seems like they're closing the gap, it just gets even bigger. And now we enter the 6-year time skip because a year's already passed. Gohan sort of trains a bit, but it doesn't really stick. Unlike the main story, there's been a lot that's happened so far that's kind of turned him away from that. Goku does get to see a little bit of his potential, but he's had such a different upbringing by now. And when Goten's eventually born, the same happens with him. Gohan at least knows the basics of martial arts, and he has grown a bit stronger, but Raditz thinks it's a waste of potential though. Goku's glad that he's happy, but Raditz tries to convince him to train Gohan more. There's not really much he could do though. Gohan doesn't even have Super Saiyan yet. But he's improved a ton from before, even with his little training. He at least can actually fight now if he wants. I feel like there's still a good chance he could become the Great Saiyaman. I know a lot of people theorize that he only did this because of the Ginyu Force, but I think it's much more likely that Gohan's just a nerd. Like, look at Dr. Hedo and the Gammas. They're just like that. They didn't need to get beat up by a group of aliens who posed on them every time they won. They just like doing that. Nappa and Raditz focus a lot on training together. All 3 of the Saiyans are behind Goku right now, but specifically these 2, they want to work on getting at least ahead of Vegeta. For the time being, they're bachelors. Vegeta at least has Bulma, and if he didn't, he probably would be one too. And for Trunks, unlike Gohan, he's actually still training because Vegeta makes him train. At some point this might eventually influence Goten, but it's a slower process. And as another side note, Krillin would probably eventually meet Android 18. He did see her before in Jiro's lab and was one of the people that tried to convince everyone to not kill her. And especially after she died to Cell, one thing would probably lead to another. That brings us to the tournament at the end of the time skip. 3 people enter this time that didn't enter before: Tenshinhan, Raditz, and Nappa. The rest of the roster looks pretty normal, except for the fact that their powers are all respectively really different. notably Goku and Krillin being way stronger than they normally were, and Gohan being way weaker. And because of this, Babidi's actually focused on Goku to take energy from. Spopovich and Yamu wait for him to go up. His match is against Kibito. It was supposed to be against Vegeta, but Shin changed some things, mainly to get this plan to work. Kibito coaxes Goku into powering up, and he does. Not showing Super Saiyan 3, but at least Super Saiyan 2. Spopovich and Yamu take the opportunity to jump in, with Shin and Kibito trying to paralyze Goku as well. But this doesn't really work the way they intended. Spopovich and Yamu are able to get some energy, but Goku's able to break free of it pretty quickly. He wasn't showing his full power. With a burst of energy and a brilliant flash of light, he powers up into Super Saiyan 3. Terrified, Spopovich and Yamu run away, and this breaks him free from the paralysis too. Spopovich and Yamu look, and they at least got a good amount of energy from it. They didn't get all the energy they needed for Buu, but still, this is more than enough. Babidi only needs a little bit more now. The second they leave, Shin and Kibito try and follow, telling the others to follow too. They have something important to tell them, and they'll explain on the way. Goku decides to go along because the person he was fighting leaves. Piccolo instantly goes along too, realizing who these two people are. Mainly because Kami's watching from above and told Piccolo. Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa follow too, with Krillin and Ten reluctantly going as well. They want to see what's going on. As they chase Spopovich and Yamu, Shin and Kibito explain everything. They didn't expect Goku to have that much power though, which could be kind of an issue because they might have gotten enough for Buu. They're not too sure yet, but still. If Buu ends up being revived, well, Goku's sure he could defeat him at least. It'll be nice to have a challenge for once in a while. Shin tells him not to underestimate Buu. He's incredibly powerful, and even with as strong as Goku is, he's not too sure if Goku can beat him. And yeah, that is true. Goku has no clue of who Buu is and how strong he is. But after all his time practicing with Super Saiyan 3, this should be more than enough. There hasn't been anyone that could stand up against it so far. He assures the two Kais that he's not being cocky either. Confident, yes, but not cocky. They arrive at Babidi's ship and watch him kill Spopovich and Yamu. Dabura then tries to attack them, but he's really quickly stopped. He almost attacks Kibito, but quickly Nappa powers up into Super Saiyan 2, grabbing onto Dabura and holding him still, locking him in place. Dabura is barely able to turn around, spitting on Nappa and turning him into stone. But the second he does this, Raditz then powers up into Super Saiyan 2, fighting Dabura pretty easily. Of course he's concerned about Nappa, but Shin then says all he needs to do is kill Dabura. Sounds easy enough. Raditz fights him pretty evenly at first, trying to make Dabura feel comfortable here. Really, he's not using his full power just yet. And then he gets the moment to strike. Quickly he showcases his full strength, landing a powerful blow on Dabura that doesn't kill him, but seriously injures him. He then launches up into the air, killing him with a double sundae. Nappa's pretty pissed off because that guy fought like a coward. He definitely would have won that fight if he didn't turn into stone. But thankfully, they prevented anyone from dying against him. Shin hopes that Raditz didn't give off too much energy, but that fight was really quick, and he was the only one fighting, so it shouldn't have been too bad. Babidi was able to get back to the ship, and he did get some energy from this, but most notably, he got a lot of it from Goku. Even though he wasn't at full power, and they only barely were able to take energy from him, they got about 80% of the energy they needed, plus another 5% from Dabura's fight. But now things are looking bad. He's close to reviving Buu, but they're going through his ship now. Soon enough they're going to get to him. He needs a way to get energy quickly. Otherwise his plan is doomed. But he has the perfect idea. When the group's about to get to the bottom of the ship, Nappa then feels a strange sensation. Then Raditz, then Vegeta. Babidi is trying to possess all of them. They're vulnerable targets. And he can tell they're not fulfilled. They have latent evil within them. But more importantly, their insecurities. He could exploit this. He can make them his minions. Shin and Kibito are a bit terrified, with Goku, Piccolo, Krillin, and Tenshinhan ready to fight. They can't believe what they're seeing, but it seems like the three of them are actually being possessed by Babidi. But how? They should be strong enough to counter this. Babidi's spell ends, and the three Saiyans all power up, now with an M on their hands. Majin Raditz, Majin Nappa, and Majin Vegeta look at Goku. They're now under Babidi's control, seemingly at least, and they got a huge boost in power from them. Everyone is then teleported back to the World Tournament. It takes Goku a bit to realize what happened, but he comes to realize that they willingly did this. The three of them gave in to Babidi for that power boost. They wanted to see if it was enough to actually beat Kakarot. Plus, part of them wanted to go back to their old life. They've been domesticated by Earth. Raditz and Vegeta especially felt this way. Vegeta with his own family now, and Raditz seeing what Kakarot's life is like. Look at him, pure-hearted, raising two powerful Saiyan sons who don't even fight. Plus, all three of them wanted to surpass Goku. This way, they could do that. Shin's worried because now Babidi's definitely going to get enough energy. But Goku says not to worry. He powers up into Super Saiyan 2, ready to fight the three of them off, with Piccolo, Krillin, and Ten joining in as well. As the fight breaks out, at Babidi's ship, he sees the power slowly increase, and then, Buu's finally revived. Even after this short amount of time, it gave more than enough energy. He doesn't even need those minions anymore. They got the job done. He's done it. He's resurrected Majin Buu. Goku's able to move everyone away from the tournament. It's a 4v3 right now. The three Majin Saiyans versus Goku, Piccolo, Tenshinhan, and Krillin. But Goku then asks the three others, leave this to him. These three clearly have a gripe with Goku, and that's the only way they're going to solve it. And he does appreciate their help, especially with how strong they are now. But it feels a little unfair to him. Krillin tells him this isn't the time to be worried about that.
but Goku says just to trust him. If he wins like this, they're never going to be satisfied. He needs to fight them alone. They could go and stop Babidi. So, Goku begins a 1v3. And he finally does what they want, showing his full power, Super Saiyan 3. And even with their boost in strength, on top of the fact that it's a 3v1, they're not sure they could win this. Of course, Super Saiyan 3 still has downsides, but thanks to all of Goku's training with it, he has at least gotten somewhat of a control on it. It's not perfect. Super Saiyan 2 has way better efficiency, but in terms of raw power, this is his strongest. This is his peak right now. As that battle rages on, Piccolo's crew goes to find Babidi again, but it's already too late because Babidi's coming to them, and they sense a terrifying power alongside him. Shin and Kibito's jaws drop. Majin Buu's here. The four Saiyans even stop their battle and look up. Vegeta's mad because he doesn't want the fight to be interrupted. Quickly he launches a blast up, and Babidi doesn't even notice. It hits him and kills him instantly, with part of it also scraping Buu, but he instantly regenerates. He lands on the ground with a grand entrance. But Nappa then shouts at Buu, with his scream shaking the entire area, being felt even far away at the World Tournament. The three Saiyans are fuming right now, especially now that their battle's being interrupted. And together all three of them attack Buu, with Goku even joining in too. Weirdly enough, they put their battle aside for the moment just to fight Buu. And, especially with Goku there, this actually isn't a tough battle. 3 boosted Super Saiyan 2s, plus Goku in Super Saiyan 3, way beyond where he is supposed to be at this point. Just like Goku said before, Majin Buu's not actually a challenge. And, quickly, they kill him, like it's nothing. And then they immediately return back to their fight, like nothing happened at all. Shin and Kibito can't believe what they're witnessing. I mean, it's kind of a good thing, but still. They're really that focused on their fight? But slowly the battle dies down. Goku loses some more stamina to Super Saiyan 3, but the other 3 Saiyans knew from the very beginning that Goku was going to be able to win here. One by one they begin to fall. First Nappa, then Raditz, and then finally Vegeta. But before Vegeta loses consciousness, he exchanges some words with Goku. Just as he expected, Goku won again. He wanted to see if it was possible to win, and even with that power boost that they got, it still wasn't enough. The 3 of them wanted to go back to who they were, at least briefly. They hoped they would gain some sort of power that way, plus the other power that Babidi promised them. To think they did all that, and it led them nowhere. But Goku acknowledges their strength. They didn't need to do that. And look, that freak Majin Buu was revived, and they were actually able to defeat him, even if they're not the strongest. Still, look at how much they've grown, not just as warriors, but people too. They've grown way stronger than they realized. The old Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz wouldn't even recognize this as wrong. And thankfully Goku stopped them before they hurt anyone, mainly at the tournament. Still though, Vegeta can't believe what he witnessed. Kakarot truly is number 1. Goku stands there, a bit beat up, but victorious over the 3 Saiyans, as well as Majin Buu. Shin and Kibito thank everyone for their help. They also heal the other Saiyans and they return to normal. They awkwardly apologize for what they did, but thankfully they did no damage at all. Although, who knows what would have happened if Goku wasn't there. And even though they led to Majin Buu being revived, still, that didn't cause anything. Shin and Kibito are still speechless at the fact that Buu died so quickly. And the 4 of them together was overkill. From what they saw, Goku alone would have actually been enough, just like he said. That power they showcased was helpful, but still, terrifying. Those mortals are really weird. But it's a good thing everything worked out in the end, especially after Shin and Kibito's plan failed. They wonder if they'll see more of those 3 Saiyans. A few months after Buu's defeat, Beerus wakes up, way earlier than normal. Oraclefish told him that around this time, he'll be able to meet his rival. Beerus also learns from Whis that apparently there's some Saiyan out there that was able to defeat Frieza with ease, while still holding back no less. It turns out there's actually a few Saiyans alive too. The only reason Saiyans are important to Beerus is because he also had a dream about some sort of Super Saiyan god. But that one who defeated Frieza, the one named Goku, he in particular interests Beerus. So he immediately heads out for Earth. And, besides Goku, this immediately strikes fear into the hearts of all the Saiyans there. Vegeta of course remembers Beerus, and Raditz and Nappa have heard about him too. Apparently he's here for them. He's looking for a powerful Saiyan rival, some sort of Super Saiyan god. They've never heard of that. They know about Super Saiyan, but never a Super Saiyan god. They have also gone beyond Super Saiyan, but they don't know of any godly aspect. So, out of curiosity, Beerus tests their power first. They do seem pretty powerful. The 3 fight all together in Super Saiyan 2. Of course, Beerus has to hold back significantly. This does next to nothing to him. But they definitely seem stronger than the average mortal. Although, he knows one more Saiyan is here too, one who apparently defeated Frieza. These 3 take offense to this because they defeated King Cold. That should count for something as well. But they know he's talking about Kakarot. So then Goku gets to meet Beerus, excited to finally fight someone that might be able to give him a challenge for once. It's been so long since he last had a challenge. The only person that gave him any sort of challenge in recent history, it was future Vegeta. And that was someone who's not even from his timeline. Apparently Beerus is a god, the strongest person in this universe, besides Whis. And Goku's more than glad to fight him. But he quickly comes to learn that not only is Beerus a challenge for him, he doesn't think he could ever defeat Beerus. At least not in his current state. He's so far above the other 3 Saiyans, even combined, he kinda overpowers them. But for Beerus, that doesn't matter. That's a minuscule difference. Beerus feels like he's wasting time here, but if they want to find out about the Super Saiyan God, it's probably best to ask Shenron then.
So they summon Shenron and get info about the Super Saiyan God. And this time around, they actually do have enough people for the ritual. They're not too sure if it'll work with Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz, but it's at least worth a shot. They seem righteous enough now to be part of it. Vegeta, Nappa, Raditz, Trunks, and Gohan join. By now, Gohan and Trunks even have Super Saiyan, even more fitting for this ritual. Beerus, of course, wants Goku to be the recipient of it, so he's the center of the ritual. And it actually works. Goku becomes a Super Saiyan God. He's in a whole new league of power now. He was already ahead of everyone before, but this is something else. And of course, Beerus wants to test it right away. He and Goku briefly battle. And while the battle is brief, they move so quickly that they get more than enough fun out of it, and Beerus can see the scope of his power. He's grown significantly, and this is definitely a divine form. But still, it'll take him years to reach Beerus' level, if that's even possible at this point. Although he definitely shows promise, and for that reason, he wants Goku to become his rival eventually. Goku's even stronger than he was in regular Battle of Gods, which makes Beerus more curious about how strong he could truly get. Weirdly enough, he and Goku are similar. Both have been spending so much time looking for a rival. Of course, Goku's had his own rivals, Piccolo being his main one here, but also a rivalry with the Saiyans, with Krillin, with Tenshinhan. He has rivals, but in terms of someone that can match his power at least, he hasn't found that yet. Not in this timeline, that is. Beerus is in a similar boat, but it's a much bigger problem for him. This will benefit them both. Goku can grow way beyond his limits, and he can have fun by fighting Beerus, even if he's going to lose each time. So pretty much immediately after meeting, Goku ends up going to Beerus' planet. Not just to train there, but so he could spar with Beerus as much as he wants. This is good for Beerus too. He knows he's going to win every time, but still, it's fun. Once more, the other three Saiyans feel left behind. Literally this time, because they're left behind from going to Beerus' planet. As months pass, occasionally Beerus and Whis do visit Earth, with Goku coming back as well. But mainly, they're here to try the food and such, with Goku visiting to see family and friends. And each time Beerus comes to Earth, the Saiyans try to impress Beerus somewhat, but he's not impressed. They're clearly strong, but they were so far behind Goku to begin with that Beerus doesn't really care about them at the moment. They're gonna have to pull off something really impressive for him to even look their way. They wonder how far ahead Goku is now. The more time passes, the more the gap is gonna grow. They'll never be able to catch up to him. They'll never be able to become the strongest. They completely dedicate themselves to training here on Earth. Of course, it's probably not as good as what Goku's doing, but still, this will help them grow. They also do have enough people to do the ritual again if they wanted to. They would just have to swap Goku with Goten. But the three of them decide against the ritual. That's a shortcut to them. Even Goku didn't seem to like the ritual. He did it just because Beerus wanted it. And they vividly remember the last time they took a shortcut, becoming a Majin to fight Goku, and that still didn't work out in the end. So this time around, they're not going to do that. They've completely sworn off the ritual. They could discover a new form in their own way. And even if they end up going down the path of a Super Saiyan God, there has to be some sort of way to get it through hard work instead of that shortcut. Their pride, and their last experience with becoming a Majin, that holds them back from doing this. Especially because Kakarot knows better than anyone. All of his power came through hard work. They need to try and emulate him more if they want to grow as strong as him. Eventually they're able to get Super Saiyan 3 for themselves, and of course they know the downsides. One interesting thing to note here is that Vegeta and Nappa never did lose their tails. So for them, they're actually able to maintain Super Saiyan 3 really well. Raditz, on the other hand, he lost his tail a while ago, thanks to Goku. It never ended up growing back, so he has to kind of work around this. And he decides the best way to do it is to use a Super Saiyan 2 to 3 switch, fighting mainly in Super Saiyan 2 and only swapping into Super Saiyan 3 right at the moment of attack. And because of this restriction, he actually grows more adept with the form. Vegeta and Nappa could just use it freely, thanks to their tails helping them. But Raditz's lack of tail forcing him to be craftier, that molds him into having a much different fighting style. One day the three of them notice the sky randomly turns dark, as if someone's summoning Shenron. They come to realize that someone actually did summon Shenron, but nobody knows who. Only until a few months later when the Frieza Force arrives back on Earth. It seems that Frieza's been revived. It's funny that they didn't bother to revive King Cold because these three would have loved to kill King Cold a second time. But now they finally got their shot at Frieza. In base, these three defeat Frieza's entire army, and they're ready to take him on next. And they tell him to just cut the niceties and go right to his final form. So, he does that. Vegeta steps up to take him on. He didn't actually get to fight Frieza in his final form before, but he did sense it. He can tell Frieza has grown stronger, but if this is his limit, they're gonna win here, because Vegeta is able to fight him in base. But Frieza then gets an opportunity, showing the true power that he's gained, transforming into Golden Frieza. And now it's kind of an issue because he's way stronger than before. Vegeta can't fight him alone, much less in base. He transforms into Super Saiyan 3, with Nappa doing the same. That's new. He remembered the regular Super Saiyan form that Goku had, as well as the one that went beyond that. What is this, another level beyond that level beyond? Well, yeah, that is exactly what it is. And he looks over at Raditz, and he can't tell if Raditz is using it or not. He's not actually using Super Saiyan 3 right now. But Frieza just assumes he is because his hair's already long. Kinda good for Raditz because it allows for some sneak attacks. Frieza doesn't expect the 2 to 3 switch, which is kind of funny. Raditz's hair acts as a perfect camouflage for this. But still, he's able to take all three of them on at once at their strongest. It's kinda like before with King Cold. And he's loving this, the fact that it takes all three of them at once to fight him. He's confident he could win here, which is kind of an issue for him. Really, he should finish this as quick as possible. But he doesn't. The
The three other Saiyans can see that he's slowly losing stamina from this form, something that they don't have to worry about, at least not Vegeta and Nappa. Raditz kinda does have to worry about it, but when he's in Super Saiyan 2, it's not an issue. Over their years of training, not only have they grown way stronger, but they've grown in every other aspect too, and they know how important the preservation of stamina is. They're much more efficient in battle than Frieza is. Frieza slowly loses steam, and then the three Saiyans can show off their true strength. They are a little beat up, but they're able to hold their own, and now they have the upper hand. Together, the three of them essentially play volleyball with Frieza. He continues losing strength, eventually to the point where he can't even use his golden form anymore, going back into his final form. Of course, Frieza plans to blow up Earth, but before he even has the chance, the three Saiyans decide to finish him off, combining a blast together to kill him. And it's pretty fulfilling for them. They've grown really strong because even with that new form that Frieza had, they still were able to beat him. Although, it's a little bit of a bummer that they couldn't do this individually. But still, they got to defeat Frieza, and this time, they did it all alone. It was their strength that did it. They didn't need any shortcuts. It was their power, their drive, their dedication, everything. They may have still not been noticed by Beerus, but they're definitely making great progress. And on top of this, Beerus finally does notice them. Whis eventually tells Beerus and Goku of what happened on Earth. Apparently Frieza came back, and he had a brand new form as well. And according to what Whis can see, he seemed pretty powerful. But on top of that, the other three Saiyans have grown a bunch as well. Goku's checked in with them briefly, but he hasn't seen their full strength yet. And they haven't seen his true power now. But he can see that they were all using Super Saiyan 3. Even for Raditz, he could see that 2 to 3 switch that he was doing. In the time that's passed, they've grown a ton. And Goku can't wait to see what they're truly capable of. And Beerus knows that this entire time they did want to come here and try to train under Whis. And reluctantly he decides, yeah, why not? At this point, he might as well bring them here. They're clearly growing a lot, so he does wonder how fast they'd grow as Super Saiyan gods as well. Although it's kind of weird to him that they didn't try the ritual for themselves. They definitely had enough people on Earth to do that. That didn't even occur to Goku. But he could tell exactly why they're doing that without even asking. They truly have changed a bunch. That alone is more than enough to prove that. And he's happy about this. Not just them growing stronger, but them changing further and further. Beerus, Whis, and Goku go back to Earth, and this time around, they take Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz back with them. And finally, Goku gets to show off his true strength. They don't even have Super Saiyan God yet, so they can't really sense his power. But Goku's already gone beyond Super Saiyan God, and it's a nice little tip for them because now they'll know how to go beyond it as well. By combining the power of Super Saiyan with it, he's unlocked Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, or what he just now calls Super Saiyan Blue. He's actually had this for a while, so long in fact that he's got complete control over it. The fact that he got such great control on Super Saiyan so much earlier on, that also kinda helps here too. He knows all the secrets to it, and he basically applied that to this form. Not to mention the years in advance that he had with Super Saiyan God as well. Funny enough, this Goku doesn't have Kaioken. If he did, he'd have Blue Kaioken by now. But since he doesn't, he's instead working on going beyond Super Saiyan Blue. He's perfected the form, but he knows there's probably a stage beyond it. Maybe a Super Saiyan Blue 2, or a Blue 3. The Saiyans begin their rigorous training under Whis, as well as Goku, who weirdly enough, kind of becomes an assistant teacher to them. They are actually able to unlock Super Saiyan God through training. Beerus was getting a little antsy and was about to just have him do the ritual, but they did it. It's pretty amazing to him. And thanks to Goku's pointers, they're able to get control of Godly Ki pretty quickly, basically speedrunning their way to Super Saiyan Blue. And it's not just the teaching that helped them. The years that they spent training beforehand, especially those years on their own where they were learning their own things, they could apply all that here too. And it's good timing because eventually, the Universe 6 tournament takes place. So they're immediately pretty prepared because they all have Super Saiyan Blue by now. As for the team, it's a pretty simple pick. Goku, Vegeta, Raditz, Nappa, and Monaka. Goku was going to recruit Piccolo because he's wondered how he's grown. Or even Ten or Krillin. But Beerus says this guy's stronger than all of them and should be a good motivator for them. He's only recruiting Monaka as another goalpost for them. Mainly because Goku's so far ahead of everyone that he kinda needs a new goal. Of course, there's Beerus he's trying to surpass, but he needs something else. And thankfully for Monaka, he doesn't even have to fight because Goku's the first one up in the tournament, and he basically sweeps everybody. The Saiyans are pissed they didn't get to fight, but at least they get to meet Cabba. And it's really intriguing to learn about Universe 6's Sadala, as well as the Saiyans that exist there. So, while they didn't get to show off their strength, at least they were able to get something out of this. Because it seemed like they'd get nothing out of it at first. They really hope to see him again. They kinda do want to learn more about Universe 6's Saiyans now. But everyone at the tournament is just amazed with Goku's power. Even Hit and Champa can't believe what they're seeing. But it's not just them. Of course, the tournament is uploaded to GodTube, and a lot of people are watching it because this mortal is so incredibly powerful. Like, he took on 5 of the strongest people from another universe himself. He barely even broke a sweat. He defeated all of them. Even one who was manipulating time, he somehow got around that, through his sheer power and analytical abilities alone. He's strong, but also intelligent. Mainly when it comes to battle, at least. And eventually, one person in particular sees this footage. Gowasu, who eventually shows it to Zamasu. Not too long after, Zamasu of course learns about the time rings, as well as future Vegeta. A mortal messed with time and it created this. It doesn't really sit right with him. Of course, after seeing the Universe 6 tournament, Zamasu decides it'll be a good idea to take Goku's body. At least in one of the alternate timelines. With how much stronger Goku is in the scenario, this would affect Goku Black as well, obviously. His first target, it's going to be that future timeline that first messed with time, which leads to Goku Black going there and recruiting Zamasu as well. The Zero Mortals plan has begun, although it's not really too well planned out. Earth is actually doing relatively fine. Sure, it lost some of its strongest warriors, but it's not just Trunks there like normal. The future warriors in this timeline were able to defeat Cell pretty easily, and once Babidi became a threat, they were able to defeat him and Deborah as well with the help from the Kais. They still have Vegeta, Trunks, Raditz, and Tenshinhan. It's a pretty good crew working together. By this point, I'd even say Bra is born. And given the circumstances, she does train a bit, but she's way younger than Trunks, and she doesn't have nearly as much experience as her brother. Still, worth noting that she'd probably be a warrior here, at least to some extent. By the way, I don't actually have a design for future Raditz, so whatever I end up using in the actual video, that explains why. Probably gonna be Biker Raditz or something. Anyways, life is pretty decent on Earth. It is unfortunate what happened with the androids, but it's not nearly as catastrophic. We still don't have any Dragon Balls. But things are fine, at least until Goku Black and Zamasu show up. First, it's just Goku Black, aiming to fight Vegeta, who apparently is the strongest warrior here. He doesn't have full control on Goku's power yet, so even though he has a stronger body, it doesn't mean he's instantly just gonna wash everybody. Which also ends up being kind of a problem for him. Not only does he not have access to Goku's full power, but he underestimates the future warriors as well. Goku Black in the main story had a weaker version of Goku compared to this scenario, and he was just fighting Trunks, who is also weaker compared to the Trunks in this scenario. Plus, you have to add the fact that they have Vegeta, Raditz, and Tenshinhan here too, all of whom have grown stronger on their own, and especially with training together, that really helps them grow powerful. Ten is by far the strongest human at this point. He utilizes a lot of King Kai's techniques, and he's especially adept with Kaioken after all these years of training with it. The others have all ascended Super Saiyan in their own ways. Of course, they've had Super Saiyan 2 for a while, but against Goku Black, they really get to go all out. Raditz and Trunks have access to Super Saiyan 3, but they are trying to get something else for themselves, something that Vegeta was able to get pretty easily because of the fact that he still has his tail. This is something that he could actually get without a tail, but they don't realize that yet. But this entire time, Vegeta's been working on himself and trying to think outside of the box, and eventually he stumbled upon something that works, trying to combine the power of a great ape with that of a Super Saiyan. Raditz is still really bummed that he lost his tail all those years ago, because this leads Vegeta to unlocking something brand new. And in their first encounter with Goku Black, he shows this off immediately. They're able to quickly realize that this isn't actually Goku, and Vegeta takes great offense to it. Whoever this doppelganger is just making a mockery of Kakarot, a mockery of Saiyans as a whole. Raditz feels the same way. He was never particularly close with his brother, mainly because of how quickly Goku died in this timeline. But still, it's so disgraceful for this guy to just be copying Kakarot, and not know the truth behind his power. They've always known Kakarot's a strong warrior. And it did take a while, but after going back to the past timeline, Vegeta actually realized what made Kakarot so strong. Seeing him once again after all those years, and seeing how that version of Kakarot grew beyond this version of him, it's something in his blood that Goku Black will truly never understand. He has no clue of who this doppelganger is, or why he's here. What he does know is that he needs to kill him right away. It's another obvious threat to this timeline. He's pretty strong even in base, but he's definitely going to be losing here. 2 Super Saiyan 3s, Tenshinhan with Kaioken, and then he sees Vegeta's full power, Super Saiyan 4, his strongest form and one that Raditz and Trunks are working towards. And Vegeta takes him on alone. Goku Black is completely overwhelmed by his power. He thought he'd have more strength by taking Goku's body, but Vegeta says that's where he miscalculated. Again, he still has no clue of who this guy is, but he's sure they'll figure it out after killing him. It's probably better to stop him right here, especially if they risk him getting away. He's about to lose the battle, but then Zamasu teleports in. Goku Black doesn't even have an opening to charge an attack for himself or even to get away. Zamasu is here to bail him out. But the second he intervenes, Tenshinhan attacks, overwhelming him with his speed and Kaioken. Then Trunks and Raditz get a good look at him and realize that this guy looks like a Supreme Kai. Thankfully here, Shin and Kibito are still alive, so it's something they could ask about later. But why is a Kai here working with this doppelganger for Goku, and attacking them of all people? They gotta be careful here fighting a Kai because they don't really know what they're dealing with. Should they really be fighting a god like this? Raditz says it doesn't really matter. If he's attacking Earth, they're perfectly justified in killing him. He's probably a doppelganger too for all they know. So the other 3 fight Zamasu and he's completely overwhelmed as well, also not getting a chance to teleport away. Not too far from where they're fighting, a final shine attack darts through the sky. Vegeta's finishing move to kill off Goku Black. And Zamasu isn't necessarily strong, but they notice every time they injure him he just heals instantly. Zamasu could also sense that Goku Black's been killed. He does try to Kai away, but every time he tries, he's attacked by one of the 3 people fighting him, now 4 with Vegeta involved. And Ten has an idea. He tells them to just hold Zamasu still for a bit. They don't recognize he's immortal yet, but if he keeps regenerating, there's a better way of defeating him, especially with the fact that they're not sure about killing a Kai at the moment. As the others prevent Zamasu from leaving, Ten then charges an attack. He rips out a chunk of the ground nearby, carves it out with some ki and makes it into a container, and using some dirt to write a seal on it. It's pretty shoddy, but it should work. He then pulls off a Mafuga, sealing Zamasu away in the makeshift container. And just like that, they saved the future without even realizing how big of a threat they just faced. They still have no clue who that Goku doppelganger was, but they'll find out eventually thanks to some help from Shin and Kibito. They'll get in contact with them soon enough and figure out what to do with Zamasu as well. With the crisis averted here, what's going to happen with present Zamasu then? especially without anyone traveling back to the past and Goku Black attacking them as well. Well, this would lead to Zamasu never meeting Goku here. Sure, he sees Goku on GodTube, and he still does have his hatred for mortals, especially after learning about the time rings. But this would mean he'd probably be slower to act on the Zero Mortals plan. And this also gives him time to look in another timeline, seeing what the other Zamasus are doing. He then eventually comes to find out what happened with the other Zamasu. Actually, two of them for that matter. One of them stole Goku's body and killed everyone, moving to another timeline recruiting a Zamasu who became immortal. And somehow, even with Goku's body and an immortal Zamasu, they were defeated by a much weaker crew on Earth. If the plan couldn't work there, Zamasu thinks the plan definitely would have worked here. He would likely fail, and pretty quickly too. So for the time being, while no one in this timeline knows of the threat of Zamasu, he's also not really doing anything here, keeping his disdain for mortals to himself. Maybe he could work on some other plan, but he doesn't really know for sure. All he knows is that it might not be a great idea. Now that we're back in the present timeline, let's see what's been going on here. Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz in this timeline are still trying to catch up to Goku. With godly powers and the fact that they're training with each other on a similar level, they're growing really rapidly, dedicating themselves to this. Vegeta is definitely the strongest of the three, with Nappa and Raditz locked in a rivalry to figure out who would be number 3. Each is trying to surpass Vegeta, and then eventually Goku. It's kind of weird to Beerus because he notices that there's basically 3 tiers of power here. There's Goku, who's in his own league, then there's Vegeta, and then not too far behind him is Raditz and Nappa, who are relative to each other. There's something about Vegeta that's pushing him ahead of the others, but still, something about Goku that keeps him way ahead. And it's not just the fact that he had a massive head start, although that really does help. It's been like this for so long, ever since they met Kakarot. He's always been number 1. They've come to acknowledge that, but it's not like they're spending every waking moment thinking about him. It's more so the fact that his ever-growing strength is keeping them motivated. It shows them that they can keep growing too, and they just need to figure out what he's doing so well. But by this point, Goku's even gone way beyond Super Saiyan Blue. Thanks to Whis' training, he's tapped into something else completely different, something that's not even a Saiyan form. So one day, the 4 Saiyans fight on the planet. It's going to be a 3v1 against Goku. The fight starts in base, and then everyone moves into Super Saiyan Blue, with Goku able to hold off everybody at once. They have grown significantly stronger, but he could tell that they're still not close to his level. The 3 of them together are doing pretty well, and here he's kind of having a challenge, which is nice for him. But then, Vegeta pushes himself to a new level. This is something that he's recently unlocked. Kakarot's already long since mastered Super Saiyan Blue, but Vegeta's done something different. He has mastered it, but he's also evolved it. He's reached a new peak of power, Blue Evolution. Whis is pretty impressed with that growth. Beerus could see that it's still not on Goku's level, but impressive still. It's a new form he hasn't seen before, something that Goku doesn't even have yet. But it's not because Goku can't get something like that. It's because he's been working on something completely different. Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa know that too. Thanks to Vegeta being in Blue Evolution, and the 3 of them fighting together, they're able to push Goku back here. They're overwhelming him, which still isn't too great because it's a 3v1. If this were a 1v1, they'd be much more impressed with themselves. And there's also the fact that they know Goku's holding back. They still haven't seen what he's capable of. He's mostly been training alone with Whis, while they've been training with each other, occasionally with Whis, and sometimes trying to emulate Beerus. He does want one of them to become a god of destruction one day. Vegeta doesn't seem like he'd want to do it. And as for Nappa, Beerus wants him to refine himself. He's grown much more adept as a warrior, but still seems kind of like a meathead to him. Honestly, Beerus' eye is on Raditz right now for the next candidate. He's completely given up on having Goku as a candidate too, because while he's the strongest by far, he's definitely not interested. At least Goku's still going to be a great rival for him, just as he's a rival for so many others, particularly the 3 Saiyans here and Piccolo. But whatever Kakarot has, they know nothing about it yet, and they want to see it here. They're trying to push him into using it. What is it, a level beyond Super Saiyan Blue? Is it Blue Evolution? Or is it something like Blue 2 or Blue 3? Or is it something ridiculous that they can't even think of? Well, it's nothing too ridiculous, he says. Sure, it's something pretty powerful, and it's definitely something divine, but it's something that he's gotten directly from Whis. He powers down into base, and then starts turning into something else. There's a massive explosion of ki. He doesn't have complete mastery over this, but he can use it willingly at least. And this battle will be a great test for it. This is Ultra Instinct. The Omen version at least. He doesn't look too different, but the other 3 can tell that he's changed a ton, just from the pressure of his power alone. And the look on his face too. They all try attacking, but his speed completely outmatches them. His power, his speed, his reflexes, everything is boosted. But most notably, his actions are done automatically. Whis says that he is growing pretty quickly. He hasn't completely mastered it, but he does expect Goku to be there relatively soon. The others can't believe what they're witnessing. And pretty quickly, the fight ends, with Goku able to easily defeat the other 3. Just like always, Kakarot continuously impresses them. After that Universe 6 tournament, it makes them wonder if Goku's one of the strongest in the multiverse as is. Goku would love to fight people from other universes, but he's not sure if he's the strongest. He hopes there's someone strong out there to give him a challenge. But where would he even have the opportunity for something like that? You know where I'm going with this. The Tournament of Power. With the Universe 6 tournament happening, the Tournament of Power eventually gets planned, even without a second Zeno. Zeno has the idea for a tournament in his mind, and he still does get bored eventually. Also, no second Zeno means no exhibition match. Doesn't really matter though, the tournament's the same otherwise. Now Universe 7 needs to make a team of 10 fighters. While the people on Beerus' planet are pretty strong, what is the rest of the team going to look like? So they have 4 to begin with: Goku, Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa. Goku immediately has 3 other suggestions: Piccolo, Krillin, and then Shinhan. Those 3 have been going back and forth to King Kai. They have been growing a lot, especially Piccolo from what Goku knows. He hasn't gotten to see them in a while or test their power, but he knows for a fact that they'd be a great addition to the tournament. And while they're at it, why not add Yamcha to the tournament? He's not on the level of those 3, but still, he's a worthwhile addition. Alright, that's 8 members, they just need 2 more. Nappa asks if Vegeta would like to recruit Trunks, but Vegeta says Trunks is still too inexperienced. And for that matter, what about Gohan or Goten? Well, Goku says the same about Gohan and Goten. The two occasionally spar together, but they haven't really trained too seriously. Not ever really. They don't know the full extent of the power that hybrid Saiyans have. Gohan at least is intelligent, but he's never been in a real strong battle like this. Plus, Goku wonders how far his power could truly go. Maybe next time he's back on Earth he's going to see if he could draw any power from Gohan or Goten, but they definitely wouldn't be able to help in this tournament, unfortunately. They won't decide the next 2 members right away. Which is a good thing, because when Goku recruits Krillin, he suggests recruiting Android 18 and then eventually Android 17. Apparently Android 18 is really strong, Krillin would know, but they know next to nothing about Android 17. They're pretty far removed from the group, but at least with Android 18 she'd be an easy addition, and I feel like 17 would end up joining. So that gives us 10 members, no need to revive any villains. But hearing about this tournament, and getting to see the power of Goku as well as the Saiyans, Piccolo starts wondering. He feels a little bit insignificant. Remember, Piccolo's development has been really different in the story so far. He hasn't even fused with Kami. He's a completely different person. Not in the sense that he's evil, he's already turned good, but in terms of his relation to the group, as well as his power. He still is purely Piccolo. So his mindset would definitely be very different from the regular Piccolo we know. He's at least been working on Kaioken and a bunch of other techniques, so he can at least use that here. And this is a good chance to prove himself against a rival who's gotten so strong. But it does make him wonder, is there any way for him to ever grow stronger? And he doesn't mean some shortcut, like when the other 3 Saiyans went Majin. That clearly didn't work out. Piccolo's known long for now that something has been missing within him, and Kami knows exactly what that is. With these feelings of self-doubt in Piccolo, and with the universe at stake, Kami calls Piccolo up to the lookout. This feels long overdue, and it's about time they do this. They need to recombine into the nameless Namekian that they once were. That's what will truly unlock Piccolo's power and make him whole again, as well as defend Earth as a guardian and also help defend the universe as a whole. Piccolo arrives at the lookout, fusing with Kami, finally completing himself after all this time. This is long overdue, and a tournament that decides the fate of the universe, it's the perfect chance for him to actually do this. And immediately after fusing, the first thing he does is get Goku to come here. And naturally Goku's pretty curious as to how strong he's grown. The two find an empty spot to begin fighting in. Not only does Goku want to test Piccolo's power, but Piccolo wants to test it too. He could feel he's changed a lot, but that's different from using it in practice. The two start their clash. And right off the bat, Goku could tell that Piccolo's base is a lot stronger. But that's not the true extent of his power. Goku knows he's been training a lot ever since they last fought. He feels bad because he kinda neglected his rivals on Earth. They've been in his life for so long and they've always been so dedicated. But Piccolo in particular has always been interesting. Especially now with this. And he's glad they decided to fuse. It's been a long time coming and this finally completes them. Piccolo's full strength really comes with Kaioken. And especially after fusing, this boosted even further. He's been working with this for years by now using his own state of it where it's basically evolved, where he's constantly pushing the multiplier to as high as it can go. While he's not the only one with Kaioken, he's the only one who could do it this proficiently. It destroys his body, but he instantly regenerates from it. Of course, this does run down his stamina, but the more he works with it, the more efficient he gets with it, and the higher he can go with it. He actually pushes Goku pretty far too. He didn't realize Piccolo had grown this strong. Of course, Goku doesn't need to use his full power here, but he's pushing to using Super Saiyan God from this, and even that's not really enough. And once more, it reinforces the fact that he feels kinda bad that he forgot all his rivals here on Earth. This applies to Krillin, Ten, everybody. He needs to pay more attention to them, especially Piccolo. The former Piccolo is what caused him to grow this strong in the first place, albeit indirectly. The whole reason he went Super Saiyan so early on is because of King Piccolo's influence, and his encounter with King Piccolo directly led to him meeting Kami. Part of the reason he is where he is today is because of the former Piccolo, and he hopes the new current Piccolo could push him even further. But that does leave one question. What happened with the Dragon Balls though? Piccolo says they have disappeared, but Kami hasn't trusted him with his power, and he expects Piccolo to find the answers himself. Maybe try to figure out a way to make his own Shenron. And Kami also said one condition to the fusion is that he'll have to be Earth's guardian now, which he doesn't really mind. And now we go on to the tournament itself. As you'd probably expect, it's not really too big of a deal for Universe 7. The team's actually pretty stacked. Krillin hangs with Android 18, who of course hangs with Android 17. Ten and Yamcha spend a lot of time fighting together too, with Piccolo occasionally joining in, although he's more to himself. They're all keeping up really easily. As for the 4 Saiyans, of course they all go off on their own. There are points when they inadvertently fight with each other, but for the most part they go off by themselves. Nappa and Raditz each try to surpass each other, trying to prove which of the two is stronger. They might not reach number 1 anytime soon, or maybe even number 2, but they could definitely compete for number 3 at least. Each of the warriors eventually comes across someone from Universe 2, with more of Universe 2's fighters coming to fight them. Eventually those fighters converge, and Raditz and Nappa are forced to fight with each other again. Well, fighting alongside each other is a much easier way to prove their strength. Naturally, Goku's eyes go to Jiren pretty quickly, deciding he wants to fight him because apparently Jiren's the strongest in another universe. But Jiren's also heard of Goku, a mortal who's been capable of unlocking a godly technique that none of the other gods have, besides the angels of course. The two have heard equal rumors about each other. Jiren's apparently stronger than his own god of destruction. And as for Goku, he has Ultra Instinct, a technique Jiren's never dealt with before. Given how much Jiren values strength, right off the bat he actually kind of respects Goku. Assuming this rumor is true, and that feeling's mutual, the two begin fighting each other. As for Vegeta, he watches the fight from nearby, just trying to study it. People try to attack him, but he instantly wards them off, defeating a bunch of fodder that comes his way. But then there's one person that comes towards him that actually is pretty strong. Just as Vegeta's number 2 in his universe, he's fighting number 2 from Universe 11, the Pride Trooper Toppo. This guy seems like he's actually pretty strong, so Vegeta's excited. Glad he's fighting someone who could actually be a challenge for him. He instantly goes into blue, and Toppo actually does pretty well against him, until Vegeta shows off Blue Evolution. He didn't think he'd need his full power here, but he's glad Toppo's a worthy opponent. But he can immediately tell that Toppo's holding something back. He's not really too sure why. Toppo does have more power, but using it means he has to throw away his ideals. Frankly, Vegeta thinks that's ridiculous. If that power is something he could already access, he should just be able to use it on his own, or at least make it his own. Toppo knows that by using it, he'd be giving up who he is, and he can't fully make use of the power without this. But Vegeta's getting bored of this fight, and tells Toppo if he wants the universe to survive, he's gonna have to use every bit of power he has. He needs to get over himself, and use that full strength. Otherwise, Vegeta's gonna knock him out right now. And Vegeta's right. It's partially because he wants to see Toppo's full power, but it's also an encouragement of sorts. Toppo should try and make this power his own. He can embrace it, but also transform it at the same time, bringing out his full power against Vegeta. As Nappa and Raditz take on the entirety of Universe 3 alone, they are starting to face some struggle. Despite how goofy they look, Universe 3 actually seems pretty powerful, especially when they combine their power together. They even perform some weird attack that makes a giant black hole, but the two of them are determined to break out of it. All 10 of the warriors from Universe 2 are doing this together. It's even stronger than it was normally. But Nappa and Raditz won't fall here. Instead of getting pushed through the ring, they push the attack back, breaking through their limits, going beyond Super Saiyan Blue, each finally unlocking Blue Evolution. Nappa charges all of his power, performing a giant storm. And with his new transformation, this is actually enough to even push the attack back, sending it to the warriors of Universe 2. Raditz then jumps up in the air and performs a double Sunday, spinning around as he falls down towards the ground. This is basically skeet shooting for him, individually knocking out each of Universe 2's warriors while they're in the air, pushed back by Nappa's attack and their own. And just like that, the entirety of Universe 2 is knocked out of the ring. Goku's fight with Jiren rages on. There are some people who try to intervene, but Piccolo stops that from happening. He's kind of taking on a Vegeta role now and watching the fight himself. Because Goku's using that new power Ultra Instinct, Piccolo's never actually seen it before. Goku still hasn't mastered the form, although he still is able to use Omen willingly, and he's gotten better with it. And even with it just being Omen, he's contending with Jiren at his full power. The other gods watch on amazed not only at Goku, but also Jiren's full strength. But there is a brief moment in battle where Goku's power flares up. He lands a finishing blow on Jiren, and for a split second his hair turns white, like he's flickering in and out of a completed version of the form. Of course, Whis is really excited to see this, hoping Goku's able to grasp it here. And he briefly does, using this to knock Jiren out of the ring, but also Goku falls back into Omen. Still, this is really great. Whis could tell he's on the cusp of actually completing the form. And at least his control over Omen is really good too. Vegeta's fight with Toppo also ends with Vegeta winning, with him having an easier time than normal too. But he's glad Toppo at least did show off his full power, and he reminds Toppo to make that his own. It doesn't matter anyways because Universe 11 is going to be eliminated, but Vegeta says they're going to come back. He'll get the wish and make sure of it. There's so much more in other universes he has to explore, and other people like Toppo he could test his power and ideals against. He actually expected more from Universe 6 with their Saiyans, but here they weren't too impressive. Vegeta's got his eyes on the other universes now. Universe 7 ends up winning the tournament. As for the MVP, it ends up being Raditz, which no one really expected, including Raditz himself. The reason is Universe 7 has a bunch of people left in the ring. Goku really had one fight the entire tournament, just with Jiren, which was still a pretty important fight, but it was one person. Raditz actually got credit for the eliminations, even though it was a joint attack with him and Nappa. He was the one to land the final blow, and getting 10 people out with one attack is pretty impressive. Plus, he did have other eliminations here and there. But he has the highest elimination count in the tournament, and for that, he becomes MVP. Goku wonders what he's going to wish for, and Raditz hadn't really thought that far ahead. But he comes to a good idea for a wish pretty quickly. He wants to restore the other universes. Just like Vegeta, he sees value in fighting all these people again. It'd be a shame for that power to go to waste. Plus, he feels responsible for wiping out an entire universe. He's the reason Universe 2 got erased. It's kind of messed up and he doesn't really want to live with that. The old him would have loved it, but the current him, not so much. They were all just fighting for their survival, and none of these people were his enemies. The wish is granted and everybody comes back. What do we have following this arc? Well, there's not going to be anything with Broly because no Frieza means no Broly. At least not at the moment. Then we get to the Moro arc, but not much of that's going to happen either. Boo's destruction means that the seal on Moro is broken, so he does break out. And even though Boo's not on Earth, Mayors would probably go to Earth to get help from Goku, especially after hearing that he has access to Ultra Instinct, with Whis telling him about this. They don't even realize that this is the perfect counter for Moro. And it's not Omen either. By the time this arc rolls around, Goku has the completed version of Ultra Instinct, which is even more overkill, especially with the fact that Moro is still weakened. It would take longer to get to Namek because they can't teleport there, but he's able to get there before Moro is able to make his wish, which is good because he gets to defeat Moro, and Porunga can be used to bring everybody back. It would have been bad if they lost Porunga because they don't have a Shenron either, at least not right now. That was a little too close for comfort, even though the fight itself was pretty easy for Goku. No Frieza also means none of the granola stuff, especially without the Heaters getting access to Zuno's info, which wouldn't happen without 7-3. But there is one more arc that still does happen: Superhero. Goku, Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa are all on Beerus' planet, and the Red Ribbon Army targets some of the people on Earth. Krillin and Ten are sparring one day, and an android shows up. Krillin doesn't get how there's more androids in the first place, but definitely an issue regardless. Android 18 catches wind of this too, and she's pretty pissed off to hear it. Krillin, 18, and Tenshinhan fight together. Gamma 1's pretty powerful, although he's being pushed back by these three together, but still, they can't beat him. Gamma 1 then gets word from Gamma 2 that he killed Piccolo, and that he's returning to base. Piccolo did the same thing he did against Gamma 2 in the movie where he pretended to die. He tails Gamma 2 to his base, and thanks to his great ears, he can pick up their conversation. He knows the general direction of the base, but he could also sense Krillin and Ten fighting, and he hears that another Gamma's fighting them, so he decides to go help them, quickly changing direction and going over to where they are. And while Gamma 1's winning his fight, he's suddenly ambushed by Piccolo, showing off his actual strength. He's grown even stronger since the tournament, especially after getting more accustomed to the new fusion that he has, and with these four fighting together they actually overwhelm Gamma 1. Naturally, he calls Gamma 2 for backup, and he's pretty pissed off at Gamma 2 for saying that he killed Piccolo when he clearly didn't. He needs to be more thorough. Piccolo wishes that they had more people here to help because Yamcha's not with them at the moment, Android 17's too far away, and there's no one else that could fight. Trunks and Goten are too inexperienced, and same for Gohan in this story too. It makes him wonder how different things would be if those three were actually stronger, particularly Gohan. But they don't kill Gamma 1, and eventually when Gamma 2 shows up, it seems that everybody's calmed down. They learn they've basically been misguided. And of course Dr. Hedo's watching everything, and he realizes the same. Thankfully things didn't escalate too much, and he's able to actually stop Cell Max. The people they're fighting aren't bad at all. Dr. Hedo kinda looked the other way for research money, but in good conscience he can't do this, especially when he's trying to create superheroes. Gamma 1 and 2 then turn on Red Pharmaceuticals, and with their new allies, the entire operation is stopped. Cell Max is destroyed before he's completed, and there's only one casualty, Magenta, due to him picking a fight with Hedo. He could thank Hachimaru for that. But still, Piccolo was surprised that the Hybrid Saiyans couldn't help at all here. He knows Raditz in particular really liked to pressure Gohan into training. Goku too to some extent, but given his different upbringing here, he didn't really push too hard for that. Maybe Raditz was actually right and it's time to whip him into shape. Now back to Beerus' planet. By this point, Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa are all on equal footing, and they kinda have to think outside the box to surpass each other. Goku is still in a league of his own, and he's still continuously growing. As for Nappa and Vegeta, right now they're trying to go beyond Super Saiyan Blue evolution, if there even is a way beyond that. Meanwhile, Beerus has taken an interest in Raditz, wondering if he should really pursue a God of Destruction candidate. Raditz isn't just aiming for the number 3 spot anymore. He's aiming to surpass Kakarot. As his older brother, he should be the stronger one after all. It's a pretty bad example if he's the weakest of the two. Goku of course looks forward to this, wondering what type of things Raditz is going to learn from Beerus. Especially after that tournament, it basically cemented the fact that Beerus thinks Raditz is the best candidate. That wish he made and the reasoning behind it, it shows that he'd fit for this. He still does have some work to do, but he's proven to be able to destroy other things, having the mental fortitude to do so, but also not being a crazy villain that just enjoys doing that and that only. He still isn't too sure, but he knows both Vegeta and Goku turned down the position. There is still Nappa too, but he wonders what's next for him. As far as Beerus is concerned, Goku's going to be his rival, and Raditz will be his next candidate for God of Destruction. Vegeta's already found his place in the universe. And as for Nappa, he's content with where he is as well. They all eventually hear of what happened on Earth as well. Thankfully the people there were strong enough to stop it, particularly Piccolo. But still, this kinda does annoy Raditz. He tried to get his nephews to train. Vegeta's also a bit ticked off that Trunks didn't get involved. Nappa then looks over at Goku with almost an evil grin, jokingly saying those boys of his are a disgrace. Maybe it's time for Raditz and Nappa to whip them into shape, molding them into true Saiyan warriors, and having them harness that potential that they might have. Yeah, maybe that'll be Nappa's role. He's gonna be a teacher. Well, if that makes him happy, then yeah, Goku didn't really expect it, nor did Raditz or Vegeta. They do wonder how well that'll go though. And with that, we end off this series here. What do you guys think about this part and the story as a whole? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to see what you think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel and shows me you want to see more like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, thanks for supporting the story all the way through, and I'll see you all in my next video.